Man, you guys, you came back. Well, you either are extremely bored people and you have no life, or you're getting something. I'm just hoping it's the second one. So, see, I'm thinking like God is either this lonely fella that just needs a friend, or he's on to something and knows truth, huh? I mean, like why would he send his son and do what he does and write his word and pour out his spirit and woo us and continue to woo us? And come on, it's not that God's this lonely guy that needs a friend. He's God and he knows the truth, and love never fails. So it's all he knows to do is to keep that thing alive and keep that. There's a truth that the gospel wants us to become. Amen? And God will never change his mind. He doesn't seek its own. Love doesn't seek its own, so God doesn't seek his own in the sense of he doesn't take into account of a suffered wrong. Who grew up thinking, boy, I just so hurt God, and God must be so disappointed? And you picture God that way because you've pictured people that way your whole life, because people have been that way their whole life. God's not that way. He doesn't cry for himself. He cries for us. Love doesn't seek its own, guys. We got to get this. Love doesn't seek its own. He's not sitting there hurt. He's hurting. I was interceding years ago, and I'm praying and I'm repenting for the body, and I'm praying about some things that were on my heart, and I'm really crying. And he said, he interrupted my intercession. He's like, hey, Dan. And I'm like, he said, you do know I'm not hurt, right? I'm hurting for people. They don't see who they are. I'm not hurt. I'm not offended by men in the way that you know men to be offended. I'm not hurt. I don't need sympathy. I don't need pampered. I don't need comforted. If God's weeping, he's not weeping because you disappointed him. He's weeping because he knows you're so much more than you're giving yourself to. It's a whole different weeping. How many of us have corrected our kids just because they crossed the line, and if we told them once, we told them 100 times, and we were a little frustrated, so we set them straight? That's not how God does it with us, and that's how he wants us to do it with our kids. He wants you to correct your kids and discipline your kids because they're so much more than what they're giving themselves to, and you want to teach them that any form of discipline should teach a child that these kinds of actions bring painful repercussions, and it doesn't need to be this way. Your life is so much more than this action. So when you discipline a child, who's it really for? It's the child. But how many times have we disciplined children just because we're frustrated? And I'm encouraging you to don't ever discipline your children that way. Because we're teaching and we're being taught by all that. And that's not how God functions. God doesn't just set you straight. He's not just frustrated. He says, okay, this is going to cost you. Okay, you want to travel that road? Here, break a leg. Now there's people that believe that's God. You can't show me that's God in the Bible. You can't prove to me that's God. You can't look at the New Testament through Christ and tell me that that's God. It's not God. He doesn't break your leg. Why would he have to break your leg and play charades with you and go down a wrong road? He would just woo to you and whisper to your heart and say, no, you're more than that. That's not the road to travel. And you might break your leg on that road, but God didn't snap it. He's trying to call you home. Come on, that would be a pretty controlling God. Okay, you don't want to go where I want you to go? I'll break your leg. Maybe you'll listen. You show me the love and relationship in that. That makes you a Christian robot. That makes you a slave to him. That's not a son or daughter. Come on, if you broke your kid's leg, you'd go to jail. But somehow you think God's breaking people's legs to teach them a lesson. Come on, guys. I don't know who I'm talking to. I think I'm talking to one or two mindsets out there that God just wants to shake up a little bit. You got to get a better impression of God, or you'll never grow close to him. You just think he's just some sovereign, controlling God that, man, he's love. He wants to woo you to his heart. He wants to draw you to him. It's the goodness of God that leads men to change. People say, well, there's a judgment. You got to teach. You can't just teach love. It's the goodness of God that changes men's lives. Do you know what we've done? We've just tried to get fish. We've tried to get numbers. We've tried to get converts. And a lot of us use each other's lives as the springboard, as the tool, as the bait to get them to come to the Lord. I've seen it happen. I teach it this way. Watch this. Malchus is with the high priest. He's a servant of the high priest. He's coming to the Garden of Gethsemane to be a part of the arrest of Jesus. You guys with me? Do you know who Malchus is? He's the guy Peter whacked off his ear. Now, you don't think Peter was just trying to trim his ear to keep him a distance of Jesus. What do you think Peter was trying to do? He was trying to cut off his head, and he must have ducked to the side, and he caught his ear. He clipped his ear. Peter was swinging for the head. Jesus' disciple, Peter. You know what Jesus said? He said, Peter, put away your sword. They were coming to arrest him unjustly, unlawfully. In human language, this is what I mean by the way it seems right to a man. Peter could say, Lord, are you kidding me? You're the best thing that ever happened to me. You've done nothing but right. You're nothing but good. You're from God. These men are evil. They're wicked. They're on the side of the enemy. They need stop. You shouldn't die. If anybody dies, they should die. That's rational. That wins every talk show. Every audience says yes and amen. Victim, villain. Come on, be real with me. You've been taught to live that way. You've been trained that that's right. And Jesus comes and He's the truth. And He's showing us another way, a new and living way. He took a whole chapter in Matthew to say, you say, but I say. You say, but I say. He's humbling us. He's telling us, you ain't saying what I'm saying. You've been taught another way. You say love your enemy and hate, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. I say love your enemy. And we're like, huh? But they did me wrong. Ticks me off. He talks, He comes to His own, and His own received Him not, knew Him not. There was nothing that was made that wasn't made through Him. Yet when He came to His own, they received Him not. Why? Because they were raised up in the lie. They were in another language. They were in another realm. It was the wisdom of the age, the spirit of the world, wisdom of the age, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't the truth. So when the truth came, they didn't have a grid for the truth. So when the truth spoke, this whole lie, this whole thing that defended against the truth. He took a whole chapter to say, you say, but I say. That's sobering. That's humbling. He cuts off Malchus's ear. In your Bible, in my Bible, Jesus never says a word to Malchus. He doesn't say, He looks at His disciple and He says, Peter, put away your sword. Shouldn't I drink the cup that the fuck? Peter, look, if you live by the sword, you're going to die by the sword. You know what He's really saying? Peter, you've spent all this time with me and you're still acting like them. We don't fight this way. This isn't my way. This is your way or the world's way. It's not who you're created to be. Stop it. Isn't that what He's saying? While He's rebuking His own disciple, not Malchus, what's He do for Malchus? Puts his ear back up. So whether He picked the old one up and stuck it on or created a new one, I don't care. He made it right. Because a lot of people say, well, did He pick? Well, the Bible doesn't really say. Stop it. He fixed him. Guess what we do with Malchus in the church? We pick up his ear. We say, hey, buddy. See where your life and actions get you? Probably should be on the other side of the line, pal. You're running with the wrong crowd, man. See where you're actually, what you're reaping because of what you're sowing. Look, man, you shouldn't be running with them guys. You need to come over here, man. You need to come and repent, get it right. It might be that God would even restore things to you. And all of a sudden you're luring him to God based on his need for what God might do for him instead of the beauty of who God is. And you're using his life and circumstances as a tool to get him to cross the line instead of the love of God. And in your process of conversion, you're teaching him to still think for himself, live for himself, and get converted for himself. Come on, I'm being real. Jesus didn't power play his situation and use his ear to motivate change. He just fixed him and loved him without saying a word to him, rebuked his disciple for hurting him and fixed him. And he still was in the group that took him away and killed him. Come on. You say, well, that's enablement. That's a doormat. Well, that's like, are you kidding me? Put yourself in Malchus' shoes and walk this thing out. The Bible doesn't say any more about it, so you could accuse me of speculation, but think with me. This man has blood all over his shirt. This man knows his ear was cut off. It hurt and it was real. All he knows is this other man put his hand on his ear and his ear was like it was never cut. But there's blood all over his shirt. He rebukes his disciple and then he humbly, gently lets them bind him and take him away without a fight. Now you put yourself in Malchus' shoes while they're passing him back and forth to Herod and Pilate and they're beating him and slapping him and he's watching this and all he knows is he's experienced love. All he knows is you can say anything you want about this man, but when I was here to arrest him, all he did was help me. You can't run from this. There ain't no way to get away. There's nowhere to hide. Jesus raises from the dead. You can accuse me of speculation all you want. I am convinced Malchus is with Jesus, eternal life. He's going to be right there, and we're going to rejoice with him. He was one of the first ones across the line when Jesus rose from the dead, because you can't run from this. He didn't power play his need. He didn't put a demand on him. He's rebuking his disciple, fixing what looks like the enemy, but your war is not flesh and blood. So Jesus teaches us to love our enemy. Pray for those who use you and give to those who despitefully use you and persecute you and revile you and do this. He's telling us to give and love and serve, and then he walks it out and shows us what it looks like. Guys, he didn't deserve to die. He did nothing wrong. They were wrong. They were deceived, and Malchus shouldn't have been in that crowd, but he was, and Jesus still fixed his ear. Now, don't you get legalistic with me, and don't you get all full of works and all this stuff. Jesus' love is designed to rock your world, and if we'll get formed in that love, we'll rock the world of people instead of just living right and wrong. And all of a sudden, you'll see men for more than they're able to produce and more than they're giving themselves to, and you'll know there's a higher call, and you just might bring the best out in them as you love them. Come on, that's how Jesus ministered. Jesus didn't try to talk him out of he just loved him. Come on, he came into cities and healed everybody that he touched. Everybody that he touched, the Bible indicates he healed all that he touched, and all that came to him that asked received. True? What did they do right? How many issues do you think they had? Do you think any of them had a little unforgiveness and bitterness? And do you think any of them had a little heritage of forefathers and sins and all the stuff we talk about? None of that meant anything to Jesus. What mattered to Jesus was showing them love and giving them the heart of the Father through healing, deliverance, freedom, and encouragement. And nothing in their life could stop him. Because love is a freight train, man. And it never loses sight of its object. When he looked at them, he didn't get repulsed. He wept and said, men, they're sheep astray without a shepherd. And he wanted to love them and father them all the more. He didn't say, boy, what a bunch of losers. Man, look at the first fruit they had and the chance they had, and look what they've become. Boy, what a bunch of revival. Jesus is amazing. Remember we talked about the Last Supper and his disciples, and he's breaking bread, and he knows Judas is betraying him. He knows Peter's going to deny him. He knows they're going to run. He knows everybody that's sitting there saying, we'll die for you, is going to run and love their own life. He already knows it, and he still cut covenant and still died, right? When he raised from the dead in John 20, guess what he said to Mary? He said, Mary, and she went, oh, Rabboni, and she went to run towards him because he said, don't cling to me. So she was heading right. You women are amazing. Jesus! Ah! She was going to wrap around his ankles and not let go. You got away from me once, you ain't going nowhere again. You know, he said, Rabboni. She said, Rabboni, and she's running towards him. You know she's running towards him because he says, don't cling to me. She was heading at him. But guess what he said? This is beautiful stuff. You don't want to miss this in your Bible because we're following Jesus. He's not just taking us to heaven. He's teaching us what love is. Amen. Come on, Christianity is Christ-likeness. Christianity is transformation. It's not church attendance and singing spiritual songs. It's your life brand new. Christianity is you changed. It's not you a part of a church. It's you changed. You being changed wants you to be a part of a church. That's what makes you want to be a part of a church, but Christianity is not church attendance. Christianity is transformation, and it's the expression of Christ. Look, if you go to church and take your kids to church and don't pursue Christ-likeness without realizing it, you're teaching your children that Christianity is church attendance because you're less than Christ outside of church. And pursuing less. Damn, that's condemning. No, it's inspiring. Your life is more than going to church. Sometimes if that's all kids have, when they get older, they despise going because they went for so long and they're just tired of going because it's just church. Now, I'm not saying that's happening here. I'm just saying that happens. But a lot of times it's the parents because they don't understand. They're not realizing it. They're going to church and living less than Christ. Spats and arguments and derogatory and demeaning and animosity and frustration in the home, calling it normal. But then we go sing Holy is the Lord and go to church and we're Christians. So all of a sudden the kids go, I guess Christianity is just going to church and God somehow loves us because we're a mess. And you don't even realize that you're actually inadvertently teaching your family religion and that Christianity is church attendance instead of Christ-likeness. It's huge. Young people, that might have been happening in your home. You can be an example, especially if you're a teenager of age. You can be an example. Don't lay it on older ones and elders and parents. Man, if somebody ain't getting it, you can get it. Don't say, well, my parents. No, if you're old enough to say, well, my parents, and think that through, then you drop that and you say, what about Christ in me? Young people, you can walk in love. You can be an example right in your homes. Your dad might not want it and your mom might not get it. But I'll tell you what, you can be filled with Him. And none of that about your parents can matter if you really understand. And all of a sudden, my dad, I told you a little about that story growing up. My dad got saved through my salvation. Doesn't drink anymore and has no cirrhosis. He just turned 70 in December. Alive and well. And he was an empty cup when I was a kid. Told me I'd never be nothing. He was wrong. He just didn't understand. He was talking through his pain. He didn't have a bigger truth. He didn't have a higher, he just was living out of his pain. He was nothing, so he just told me I'd be nothing. He was just full of pain. He was an empty cup. Why does that have to determine my outcome? Why? Because my dad was a mess, do I have to be a mess? Why? Because he drank, do I have to drink? Actually, him drinking made me not want to ever drink because I saw the hell and pain it caused. And I'm like, why would I want to put that stuff in my mouth if it makes me live that way? So why isn't that a simple response? Why is it always, well, I drink because my dad drank? No, why don't you not drink because your dad drank? Stop making an excuse for your own life. When you answer before God, it's not going to be because your dad drank. It's because you drank. You put the bottle to your lips. But if you make it possible and you're easy on your soul and you come up with 5 reasons why, then you're there trapped. And you say, well, it's because of this, and you still have the Word calling you. You still have the Spirit of God wooing you. You still have to answer the truth of your value and that you're more than what you're giving yourself to. And you can come up with 5 things on the list why you're not there, but none of those things are Lord. And I'm telling you, they won't stand before the Lord. We can all come up with reasons, come on, but there's an accountability in our lives. God woos men to truth. You say, well, we need a revelation. Sometimes we just need to obey and we need to step out in faith and we need to fear the Lord enough to believe He's right so a revelation can flood our hearts. That's not works. Sometimes if a man that knows to do right and doesn't, to him it is sin. There's a time where you know to do right and you might even have a strong revelation, but you know it's right. Man, just stick with right and God will make your heart alive. Because if you keep crossing that line, you're going to gray yourself out and you're going to think less of yourself and you're going to feel like you don't have a right to Him anyway. You guys follow me on this? I don't know how I get on this stuff. I want to preach other stuff most of the time. But it's just all happy to me. That's why I smile even when I'm talking strong. Because I'm not mad at anybody. I'm saying, man, the gospel's amazing. Jesus lived this thing. He puts on Malchus's ear. That's life-changing to me. He comes up from the dead, and Mary says, Rabboni, he says, don't cling to me. I haven't yet ascended to my Father, but go tell my brethren. He didn't say, go tell them bunch of weak-willed, spineless, double-crossing, non-trustable bunch of losers that I wasted 3 years of my life with, that I'm coming to ream them out good. You know what he said? Go tell my brother, and that's family term, that's covenant term. You know what he's saying? You go tell them, guys, I haven't changed my mind about them. Amen. And I'll see them soon. Amen. I have not changed my mind about them. And when he met up with them, he said, peace to you, showed him his hands inside. In Mark 10, he said, why are you? He rebuked him and upbraided him for unbelief. That's just he's like, why would you be in unbelief when I'm with you? When I've been, come on, guys, isn't this what I've told you? Snap to it. And in that moment, he commissioned them and released them right on the spot. Go into the world. He didn't send them to a camp, a rehab, a mentor program. What he's saying is the truth's in you. Keep your eyes on it. You're equipped and ready. Now go change the world. That's crazy amazing. These guys did nothing right. And he called them brethren. And he wasn't offended. Isn't that amazing? You walk in that room and you're just flesh. And you look into Peter's eyes. Told you you'd deny me. Really hurt too, man. You see me looking at you. I couldn't believe it. You always say you'll die for me. And when I needed you most, you weren't even there for me. Come on, that's ridiculous. That's like a soap opera thing. It's like weird. He walked in the room and he saw men that he poured the kingdom into. Yeah. No matter what they got wrong, he said, man, I'm lifted up. Holy Ghost is here now. I'm drawing all men to me. This thing is on. He says, guys, you tarry in the city. Something's coming. It's a promise of the Father going to empower you to be a witness. Don't you do anything till he comes. But he's coming. And he said, but I'll tell you what you want to do with him when he comes. You go into this world and you preach this gospel to every creature. Those that believe and are baptized are going to be saved. Those who don't believe, well, they're already condemned. But you go manifest me. And if you forgive sins, they'll be forgiven. If you shut up your heart and you get cold and callous and legalistic, they won't know the way to me. But if you forgive them, they'll know the way to me. You walk in my love. The love I loved you with, you take it into the world and they'll know me like you know me. Now go tear it up, guys. That's what he was doing. And they did nothing right up to that moment. Be real with me. Look at Jesus' life. If you look at Jesus in the outward on the cross, you could criticize him. You could give him one of our American church growth programs. You could think, you know, Messiah, you need to learn how to handle crowds and people better and keep your numbers and maybe follow up and mentor a little better. Because, I mean, come on, you're the Lord in the flesh. And by the time you die, you have a couple hundred people and then they leave too. And you're not much to follow. You need a better church. You probably need a little more seeker-friendly. Stop being so confrontive and stop shaking up things, man. You need a bigger crowd. Because on the cross, he looks like a failure. You've got a vision and you're ministering and you weigh it outward all the time, and then you strive and you try to make an outward picture come to pass and fulfill your dreams. When faith's what fulfills your dreams, that thing's got yet to come become what you think it's supposed to look like. But you weigh it outwardly all the time. What am I doing wrong? Man, if I was preaching, I have more people. I have this, I have that. No, if you just lift up Jesus, he'll draw all men. If you just walk in a precedent, man, these guys 3 years were being sown into, but there came a time where their lives were changed. But you look at Jesus' life on the cross and it looks like he's failed in ministry. Be honest with me. He has nothing to show for 3 years of total surrender. 3 years of perfect love. And he has nothing outwardly to show but a few faithful women crying at his feet. Looks like a failure. But the only reason you're sitting here today is because he didn't fail. His vision is way bigger than right now. The only reason he's the God of all hope is because he doesn't watch CNN and Fox 43. He's the God of all. He sees everything at once and he's still the God of all hope. He sees drugs addicts shooting, and he sees prostitution, and he sees Vegas, and he sees New Orleans and all the places that Christians are so bothered by. And amazingly, he's still the God of all hope, and he's still profuse love. We probably should stop looking at those things and getting so bothered and stop letting darkness be the issue. Darkness is nothing more than the absence of light. Light is greater than darkness. Arise, shine, church, your light has come. It's not time to talk about the darkness. It's time to walk in the light. And if you shine the light, you'll expose darkness. It'll be removed. Nobody walked into a bright room and said, would somebody turn up the darkness? If the room gets dimmer, it's because somebody turned down the light. Darkness is never the problem for the church. The problem for the church is failing to see who she is and walking in the light. Let your light so shine before men. It doesn't say huddle in a corner and intercede against darkness. Let your light so shine before men. I'm not saying there's not a place for prayer and intercession, but it's not because of darkness. Your intercession is because of the promise of light. It's a declaration. It's a proclaiming of the hunger in the hearts of men and the amazing awareness of God and the desire for him rising in the nations. It's not, God, it's a dry and wicked cursed land, please, God. That's not prayer. You be careful that you're not praying just from the problem all the time, because then that's all you see. And And then until you see something change, it's still a problem. Well, if God saw your life that way, you'd never be okay. You'd have never had the chance to be saved. But while you were yet a sinner, He sent His Son. Why? He saw way past where you were. And He knew who you could be if He'd ever enter in. While you were yet a sinner, Christ died, even for the ungodly. Don't you forget that. That's powerful stuff. That means love sees you for potential and destiny, not face value. And we ought to see the whole world that way. That's how Jesus saw young Malchus. I think he was young. It's just my belief. But He saw Malchus and He put his ear back on to give him the greatest opportunity of his life. Yeah. He had an encounter with Messiah. Got his ear put on without a word, without a correction, without a glare. Your Bible doesn't say anything about anything, but He fixed his ear and rebuked his disciple. I love that about Jesus, because it's the loudest message He could ever send to Malchus. And I promise you, you can't get away from it. It's too much love. I ministered to a prostitute one night trying to find a girl that backslid in the streets, and in my truck. I put her in my truck. I don't suggest you to do that. Here's the sad thing about that. If you see a prostitute get in my truck, the first thing you do is fail in your heart, fall apart, call a friend crying because we're not perfecting in love. Love doesn't even think evil. And the first thing we do if you see a prostitute get in my truck is think evil if you're not careful, and it just proves we aren't perfected in love. If you'd see a prostitute get in my truck and you really know me, you ought to rejoice and say, man, I don't know what Dan's up to. I don't know what's going on. But that girl is in for it tonight. But the average response, if you saw that, would be to think the worst. And it proves we're not fashioned in love, because love believes the best. So I wouldn't boast in that. I want to think like He thinks. And watch this. So I used Keith earlier, so Keith and me are buddies, and if I saw something like that in Keith's life, and I saw him down in our town of York, and I know the areas, and I seen this girl, and I'm not unwise to the streets, and I saw this girl get in his car and they drove away. So even if I'm concerned, I certainly don't call a friend, I certainly don't get on Facebook, I certainly don't call the church. If I'm concerned and love Keith, without judgment, without pressure, I find Keith as soon as I can and say, listen, man, I saw what happened down there in that girl. Man, I hope that's a good story. Just tell me what's going on, because he tried to shake my mind, but I want to believe the best about you, and I know you've come a long way. What was going on? Why is she getting in your car, man? Talk to me. I haven't told anybody. I wanted to run to you. That's the best thing you could do for your own conscience, and that's the best thing you can do for him. Absolutely. And then you give him a chance to respond and tell you the truth. But see, you don't understand on that night, because I'm in a blur of love. I'm not in a theological set of rules of do's and don'ts and ministry boundaries. The only reason we have a lot of ministry boundaries is because of the weakness of the people, guys. And I know there's some things you avoid and you don't put yourself alone with women and stuff, and then you certainly don't share a room or stay overnight in a house where it's just you. I understand all that, because people can't process that, and you shouldn't be in that position anyway. I understand that. But in this situation, I'm trying to find a backslidden girl that ran back into the streets who was doing well. And as a pastor, my heart broke for her, and I'm like, no way, she so don't belong on that street. So I handed the mic to another preacher and left the service when I heard she was gone. And I walked out of a service like this. It would be just like somebody telling me, motioning me and saying, hey, she's gone, we're really worried. And I'd say, Pastor, you need to take this. And I wouldn't explain it. I just handed you the mic, whatever Jesus is telling you, and I bolted out of the church. Because I knew she loved me. I knew she respected me, and I had to get to her. I wanted to find her. So I went to crack house. I pulled up to another crack house, and this girl comes to my window. Hey, honey, what are you doing in this part of town? And she was soliciting me. She was a prostitute. She wants to do a sexual favor for me for a few dollars so she can get high. How tragic. I grabbed her wrist like a cobra. She shouldn't be messing with me. I'm already emotional. I'm already looking for this girl. I'm rolling, man. I'm on a mission. I don't need her soliciting me. She says, what are you doing in this part of town? And I snatched her wrist so quick she couldn't even blink. And tears burst out of my eyes. And I said, the question is, honey, what are you doing in this part of town? Because if you had any idea, even a glimpse of who you are, you wouldn't be living this way and giving yourself to these things. You are so precious to God. You have such an amazing... And I just preached Jesus to her. She's trying to get away. She looks like an animal in a trap. She can't go. I got her and I'm preaching to her. She said, who are you? Who are you? Let go of me. Who are you? I said, you still have the wrong question, honey. The question is, who are you? I know who I am and I know who you are. And you are destined to be a daughter. You are created to be a queen. Not a user, not a prostitute. What are you doing in this part of town? I just cried out my heart. That's close to a quote probably. And I said, listen to me, I need your help. I've never been carded in my life to be a minister. I've been in prisons and nobody ever asked to see my ordination, ever. I was in an emergency room, rubber room, with the only human being allowed in there is the hospital psychologist. And I was in there for hours. A nurse yelled at me for being in there. I said, the little guy out at the desk brought me in here. That short little fellow with the mustache, he walked me back here. I didn't bring... How could I get in here, sweetheart? She said, what little man with a mustache? We went out, there's no little man with a mustache. I said, Jesus, you're getting me in a lot of trouble. Because somebody has the keys to whatever kingdom they need to get into. And I don't know where this man got to, but he was real. He talked to me. He had authority. Nobody blinked. He walked me right back and left me in and said, take your time. I go into a naked teenager that's suicidal in a rubber room, sitting in the corner, curled up, full of cameras. That's what I walked into. A naked teenager who wanted to kill himself, who was walking with Jesus, praying in tongues a week or two before. I'd rather me sit with him, no offense to the hospital psychiatrist. I want to be in that room. You know what else? Jesus must want me in there. I've been in all those places and never got carded, never got asked for nothing. This nurse yelled at me. She really reacted to me. She saw me in that room. She said, who are you? I said, I'm a pastor, honey. How'd you get in? Whoa, 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 relax. This is a serious man. This guy, shh, it's okay. No, you get out of here. You aren't allowed in there. Do you know? She's freaking on me. She's emotional. The hospital psychologist is the only one that's supposed. I said, your employer left me in there. Your employee left me in there. The guy working in the emergency room, the little short fellow that's out there by the desk, just walked me back. He didn't make it a problem at all, honey. He just walked. I told him who I wanted to see. I said, it's a serious situation. It would be very important to talk. He just walked me right back and left me in. How else would I got in through this security door? She said, what little man? We went out and looked for him. Like, look, he's really little. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. But he left me in. I don't know. Guess what she said? She said, how's he doing? She started sounding like she totally changed. God can turn the heart of the king like a mighty river because it's in his hand, wherever he wish. King means anyone in authority. She changed her tune a little. How's he doing? And I said, man, really good. I just wish, were you done with him? No, I was actually in a very important place. I felt like we were making progress, honey. And I know you have rules, but man, it's so important. She said, well, listen, I'm going to let you go back in. She's scolding me. She's rebuking me. Now she's going to let me go back in. She says, but 15 minutes. I'm giving you 15 minutes. She's real dramatic about the 15 minutes. She said, in 15 minutes, you wring yourself out of here. You wring yourself out of here. I said, okay. So 15 minutes goes by. I wring myself out, and this lady comes that I haven't seen yet. I don't know if she was real. None of this is my fault. I don't know at this point. I'm confused. I just know there's a boy in there that needs truth, not just human psychology. He needs truth. And I'm not degrading people. I'm not saying that in a proud way. I know you can hear that proud if you want to. I rang out, and the lady came and said, yeah. And I said, well, the lady told me that I had only had 15 minutes I was supposed to ring out, so I'm just being courteous. She said, well, it doesn't sound like you're finished. I said, honey, I am so not finished. That boy needs some love, some encouragement, and some counsel. And she said, well, why don't you just wait till you're finished or ring out when you're done? Click. All right? that awesome? So the reason I told you that little side story is because even in that setting, nobody's ever asked me for the validation or the card that I was a pastor, ever in my life. You're going to like this. This prostitute lady at the time, she was a prostitute. She says, how do I know you're a pastor? I'm like, it doesn't matter. I already grabbed her hand. I already ministered to her. Now she's getting a little political on me. She's like, how do I know you're a pastor? I said, honey, what? She said, well, can I see some ID? I'm sitting there thinking, I'm getting carded by a lady who's prostituting. I dug out my ordination, which I just so happen to have. I don't even have one right now. It's probably outdated. I've never got a new one. This was years ago. I had one. I don't even have one. And I took my driver's license and put it together with the ordination and handed them both out the window to her. She looked at them in the street light. And I said, would you please get in my truck now and take me to her? And this, without even thinking, this prostitute got in my truck and we drove away. Now, what's that look like to the eye? You say, well, brother, you sinned. The Bible says avoid all the appearance of evil. Well, to the church, it's only appearance of evil because we're not perfected in love and we think evil and love doesn't. Be real with me. Love thinks no evil. So I don't care if you have natural knowledge she's a prostitute, and I don't care if she gets in my truck in the middle of the night. You don't have to read into that and be found in presumption and then make it something it's not and then pass it on to somebody else when you don't even know the truth. Happens all the time. So all of a sudden we can't even do some of the things that we need to do because of how we each other interpret. I get away with breaking a lot of our man-made rules, man. He blesses me. Sometimes I'm not a renegade, but sometimes it feels good. So because it's never intentional. Like if I would have thought for a second, Pastor Dave, when I was talking to her that, I probably shouldn't put her in my truck, that won't look good. I would have never put her in my truck. If I'd have thought twice, that would have been my warning and my sign that, somebody might see this and read into this. This probably isn't good. But it was a blur. It was love. I was after this girl. I said very innocently, I'm not thinking sexual favor, guys. I'm thinking get to the woman who's in trouble. And if she knows how to get me there, let's get there. So I'm like, get in my truck. I'm not even thinking. It's a blind blur. I'm not thinking what you're thinking if you see me. I'm thinking get to the girl. She takes me around the block. 2 dealers are there. They're working this girl out of the alley to do sexual favors, to drive by fellas, to get a few bucks so she can get high again. That's pretty reduced. I went around. I'm looking all around. She's the lady, the girl that's on the street. She says, "Would you stop looking around and so conspicuous? Would you in these parts, you need to just look straight ahead. I said, are you kidding, honey? I came out of the shadows a long time ago. I've got nothing to hide. You're used to living in the dark, sweetheart. I have nothing to hide. And she said, well, you're just this and this. And she thought I was going to get her exposed and in trouble. She thought the dealers were going to find out that she ratted on the girl and that the girl was going to find out. So she was just thinking for herself that way. And when we passed by, she said, don't look over there. Don't draw attention. She said, you can't drop me out on the street corner. She said, take me back in the alley. So now I'm going in the alley with her. That's what guys do when they pick them up. They go find an alley. That's where I went, found an alley. But it wasn't what you think it could have been. I pulled in that alley and I said to her, listen to me, girl. And I started to talk to her and she freaked out. She cried and she said, well, listen to what she said. Why do you care about me so much? I said, because I know who you are. I didn't even know her name, but I knew who she was. She just cried. I said, you be honest to me. Why are you living this way? For my babies. I'm just trying to raise my babies. Honey, you can raise your babies working at Walmart. You have an addiction. I want to pray with you. She fell on me in the alley and buried her head in my chest. I just held her, kissing her forehead and praying over her like she was my own daughter. I promise you Jesus likes that. I don't care what the spirit of religion has to say about nothing. I'm not a rebellious renegade. Jesus likes me in that position. You ought to feel what I'm feeling right now. Oh my goodness. That's really fun. Oops. Uh-oh. Oh my goodness. He likes that.
Glory. Praise God.
Remember when he was at the well talking to the woman? And the disciples dare not say a word, but everybody looked strange because he was in that position. And that was a weird position. To be at the well talking to a woman, let alone a Samaritan. Yeah. But nobody questioned him. Why? Because he's awesome, and he's authority, and he's Jesus, and he's amazing. So it looked strange to him, but hey, it has to be okay. It's the Lord. Yeah. I never did get a good ending with the girl in the alleyway. Man, I ought to talk through that one without crying. You wish you'd win everyone, huh? You know, God's amazing. I pulled in between two dealers. You know this stuff a little bit, Keith, how the streets work. You don't pull in between two dealers and demand the girl get in your car and then put up a fuss that you're not leaving until she gets your car, because it just looks like you're some lovesick, domestic, twisted, you know what I mean? And not one of them dealers said a word. They acted like I wasn't even sitting there. You know, if anything, they, hey man, what's your beef with the girl? What do you want? What's up with you? Who are you? Man, hit it, man, beat it, man. I looked at her. As soon as she saw my face, guess what she did? Burst out bawling uncontrollably because I represent something to her. I said, come in my car. No, go, get out. I'm not leaving. Look, I'll come in the alleyway. I'll turn around and I'll come in the alleyway if I have to. I need to talk with you. I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart. You need to get in my car. I love you. Well, to them, that would sound like some twisted domestic thing. They acted like I wasn't even there. I don't even know if they saw me. I'm not sure. She comes, gets in the car, and we drive off. I pulled around the corner and pulled over because I was crying hard. I was very emotional. Just because of where she was reduced to when she's so much more. I pulled along the curb so I could talk to her because I couldn't drive and do both. And I compelled her and I told her I'm taking her back to the house. She said, no, I'm getting out and I'm not going back. And you know, addiction's a crazy thing. I said, honey, what are you talking about? She said, I know you won't understand, but I'm not ready. I need to go out on these streets. And I said, honey, I don't understand. There's nothing out there for you. She said, well, I'm lonely. I said, lonely? How's this going to answer lonely? Holy Spirit will give you some amazing things to say. I said, in a minute, you're going to do a sexual favor for a man you don't even know who could care less if you're found dead in an alley tomorrow. That's lonely. That's lonely. I said, come with me. She got out of the car crying and ran down the street. The last time I saw her was 2 years later. Her daughter called me crying. She was in the hospital and she was coded and unconscious. And the last thing she whispered out of her mouth, dying of AIDS, was, get Pastor Dan. And I ran in right as she died. It was not a happy story. I prayed for her. I wanted her to come alive. I thought, man, God, you're going to raise her up. This will be amazing. And nothing was changing. But I leaned down in her ear. I said, I know you've violated your conscience. I know you've lived a certain way. Jesus loves you. Just cry out to him. Cry for mercy, honey. He says, forgive them. They know not what they do. He is greater than your deception. He's greater than your actions. Cry out for mercy. And I just believe she heard me, and I'm just trusting something good happened. I don't know. You just have to keep living by faith.
Yes, that's right.
She died 20 minutes after that and made me cry. Really made me cry. Because that's lonely. But you don't give up on people and you don't judge people. Keep loving people. You say, well, they don't want it. Why does that determine love? Did you ever run from God? Did you ever ignore his voice? Did you ever keep yourself at bay? Did he ever change his mind? Yeah. Or did he keep pursuing because he loves you? So don't you let yourself get frustrated with people and cut people off and say if they didn't get saved by now, they ain't gonna, and all that stuff. You keep your heart free and you walk in love. You understand? That's why you're on the planet, friend. You're not on the planet to sing worship songs. You're on the planet to love people. And then when you sing worship songs, it's the most powerful thing there is. I'm serious. You know what I'm saying. We're not on the earth to have worship service. We're on the earth to bring Him praise through our lives. Our lives are a worship. And then when we sing of these truths, He invades the atmosphere because it's our life. Sometimes we're just trying to get His attention. He's supposed to have ours. Are you guys following me? Come on, we can all love. We can all reach out to that woman. We can all have somebody like that in our lives. If you get caught up with your own stuff, you're going to miss everything around you. It's not wrong to believe for your own stuff, but don't let it make you unproductive and limit you to what's around you. There's people to love. You guys okay with where I'm at right now? Is this okay? See, I don't want to think evil. I don't want to see something. I don't want to hear gossip, and I don't want it to contaminate my soul. In fact, if somebody tells you something about somebody, you tell them you don't know it to be true, and did you even talk to that person? And everybody, you all have cell phones. I'm the only one on the earth that doesn't have one anyway. So you guys have cell phones. So pull the cell phone out and say, well, I don't know that to be true about Bobby. Let's call him. You tell him what you heard and tell him what you're telling me. We need to find truth because I don't want you talking about Bobby like that. I don't even know it to be true. Here, call him. And you watch how quick the person that came to you gossiping is going to shut down and turn tail and want to run.
That's right.
They shouldn't even be talking to you about Bobby. They haven't even talked to Bobby. Right. Yeah, but I know it's true because so-and-so told me and they were right there. Stop! Well, then why are you telling me? What benefit is it? Well, I was telling you so you could pray. Oh, stop that. Well, I was just hurt. I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do. Stop. Telling more and more people doesn't change Bobby. You follow me? You know what it does? It puts that information in their soul, and then when they see Bobby, they can't help but to think what you told them. And now if they're not in a healthy place, they can't see Bobby past what you told them. And then, worst of all, Bobby could be in worship, singing and praising, and you're looking over at him, and all you can hear is what you were told about Bobby, and now you think he's a hypocrite because you actually got Bobby judged because of what you heard. That's the dangers of gossip and talking about people. It's terrible. And we're shooting ourselves in the foot while we're doing church. And the only reason we do it is because we were trained that way in the world. But you're not in the world. You're in the kingdom, guys. So we love talking about miracles and healing and power, and we love getting answers to our prayers. But I'm telling you what, Jesus is way more emphatic in changing your heart and the world you live in and the perspective you live from. I promise you. He wants every healing to flow out of love. He wants every gift to flow from the wellspring of love. He wants you to pursue love and desire gifts. Pursue Him, desire gifts. I want to show you
I just need to make a quick announcement.
Sure.
Hang on. There's a white Outback, right, parked on this side of the road, and it's in front of the driveway or in front of a place where a truck needs to get into that's part of this building.
Right here on the sidewalk. Who has a white grid?
He's got it. He's moving. Okay. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, hustle out there and just tell him you're sorry, man. I'm sure he didn't do that knowingly. Okay. You know, I never told you. Who was here this morning when I talked about that lady hitting me and I said I'm the driver and there was a 19-year-old fire worker on the scene of that accident that was helping, and I was impressed that he was 19. I thought you had to be 21 to even work in that arena, but he explained it to me. And I don't carry a cell phone. I really don't. And it's just my choice. It's not. I don't think it's a one-eyed beast or an Antichrist tool or something. I just don't have one. But sometimes I get a little concerned when I see you people with them. No, I'm just kidding you. And the way you use them. I'm just having fun. I'll lose you all if I get on that one. And because they are your babies. This fire worker guy, I said, hey man, is that cell phone on your belt there? He had a little holder. I said, I don't know what kind of plan you have. I can give you a couple bucks, but can I call my wife real quick and just get her to get me a ride out here so I can get to a meeting I need to get to? He said, sure, man, here. And he said, don't worry about playing. I got unlimited minutes. He give me, hey, honey, hey, it's me. I'm not thinking of the kid. I'm just over talking in the quiet. I'm not being ignorant or anything to him. I just got away. I'm talking and I'm looking at the side of my truck, and it was really bad. And I went around the other side, and it's all shiny because I waxed it in the morning, and it looked like it was sitting in the yard for sale. Did you ever see somebody sit a car in the yard cockeyed? Well, that's how my truck was. And depending on what side you're on, you're thinking it's for sale or it's junk. It was that dramatic. And I'm on the good side right now, and I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, hey, hon. She said, what's going on? Aren't you supposed to be? And I said, yeah, I need a ride. I said, your sister's probably still over at your mom's. Yeah, I just talked to her. She's over there. I said, can you have her do me a big favor and just swing over, because I was just a few minutes from her mom's, and pick me up and run me down so I can meet so-and-so, and we can go to this meeting. She said, what happened? I said, it's the truck. Somebody come through. She said, your truck? I said, it's okay. It'll all work out. She said, was it really messed up? I said, oh, man. I said, actually, right now, what I'm looking at, man, I waxed that baby this morning. I said, I'm telling you, it is so pretty. And I'm talking to her just like I'm standing here with you right now. You can't even tell that I was in an accident. I'm just me. It's a truck. It'll work out. So I said, but man, if you go on the other side of that truck, ouch. I said, I'm pretty sure it's demolished. She said, really? I said, yeah. And I said, but everybody's okay. I got to love on the people. This 19-year-old standing there listening the whole time, I'm not even realizing it and thinking it. Now, what kind of impact do you think that has on him? He's looking and watching me and listening. So watch what happens. I go back and give you my... You have no idea how influential your life is in those moments when you're walking in truth. When you just look like everybody else, you're not even noticed. You're just rhetorical. But when your light's shining, you're bright and you're seen whether you're trying to be or not. Because I wasn't trying to be seen. I wasn't even thinking of the 19-year-old doing anything. I wasn't even watch all this stuff that happened in this accident. So this 19-year-old, he comes up to me, and I walked over and talked to the policeman. He did the whole report thing, and he said, boy, you're really handling this well. And I said, well, what do you mean? How else is there to handle it? He goes, well, I could give you a few other options. He said, well, I'm in a lot of accidents. He said, I don't really see it this way. He said, I can give you a lot of ways people handle it. And I said, no, it's okay. Don't contaminate me. And so after I'm done with him, this kid comes over. And that's not, don't mind that when I say kid, it's just the way we are back home. It's just, you're 19, I'm 52, you're just a kid now. So but it's awesome. You're young, it's not an insult. This guy, he pulls my shirt, and I said, hey, buddy. He said, he's uncomfortable. He said, I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to leave now. What fireworker comes to you and tells you they're leaving? There was a message in it. He was trying to say, I appreciated meeting you, and you really touched my life, and your life really spoke to me, and it's been a real honor, and I see you now. Why? Because he knows that if he was in my shoes and that was his pretty little truck, he wouldn't have been like me. And it spoke to him, and when he listened into my conversation with my wife, he saw how real it was. Are you following me? And all of a sudden, he realized there's another way, and it just might be the way. Yeah? 3 months later, I'm doing a healing service down in the southern end of the county. This is all through one little accident. 3 months later, I'm doing a healing service in the bottom end of the county, southern end, and I'm preaching, and it's pews, straight back, skinny rows. Those kind of churches are back home. It's a whole bunch of rows of pews. They're not probably from that pole to that pole, way back, long, skinny churches, and then an aisle, and that's the seating. So I'm preaching to the people. I'm preaching my great sermon, on healing, and we're doing a healing service. And I'm right in the middle, and I'm preaching on everything flowing out of love and why God really came. And I'm not just preaching on healing. I'm preaching a lot of this stuff that you heard me preach this week, and I'm leading into healing. And this man, back about where you are, brother, with your arm around your girl there, with the blue shirt on, right in the back corner, this guy just stands up. He just stands up. And I'm preaching, and he's just standing there. I said, what's going on, sir? Do you have something on your heart? He said, I know you might not recognize me. He said, but I'm pretty sure you were in an accident in the first couple of days of April. And this was May, June, end of June, early July. I said, yeah. I said, over by the Apple Hill area. He said, I was the officer. I said, no way. He said, I didn't think you'd recognize me out of my uniform. Now watch. Whew. It's the first time the man was ever in a church. Ever. Had a bad view of Christianity from a little kid up because of some stuff. Vowed to never go to church. Until he bumped into me on an accident. And my disposition and the way I came across worked on him for 3 months. And he kept thinking, I wonder if I've stereotyped Christianity and don't know what it is, or if I just bumped into what it is. I wonder that man was for real. He stands up, he says, to the people, he's the preacher now. I got this live commercial. I'm standing there, and he says, I was the officer, and I said, okay, yeah. He says, people? And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is he doing? He gets emotional, He says, I want to tell you this man is for real. And I'm thinking, well, that's comforting. As if that was up for debate. Think all you want. I don't care. You'll find out one day you're wrong if you don't say yeah. So he says, this man is for real. Because I witnessed his life when the rubber met the road and he was in an accident. And I, in my professional career of a police officer, have never seen a man function and carry himself this way. It was mind-boggling to me. And he went to boast on my life, but he's really boasted in the grace that I walk in. And he's not saying I don't get a cape or a trophy for this. It's because I'm a believer. Here's what he said. I want to let you know that I have never been in a church in my life. This is my first experience in a church. He said, because I vowed as a little kid to never go to church because of some things I won't get into, but I just didn't want nothing to do with God or Christianity and Christians. And he said, until I met this man, and he's pointing at me, now I'm about losing it. He said, and the only reason I'm here is because I just got diagnosed with a sickness, and my friend said, hey, they do a healing service down the road. Why don't we check it out? He said, in the past, I'd have said, yeah, right, are you kidding me? No. He said, but because of this man and meeting his life and the influence and thinking 3 months about his life and I thought, you know what? I might be judging something that I don't understand. I think I need to go and just see what this is all about. He said, and when I come, he's the man preaching. It's off the wall. He says, I come in the church and I go, that's him. And he's the one preaching. And it's the first time he was ever in a church in his life. And it was because he met me on an accident when I was the victim of a run stop sign. I was in another accident and I had the paramedics scolding me, thinking that I was being a jokester, telling me to get serious. This is an important matter. Who was driving that truck? And I said, sir, I was. And he said, you need to stop it. This is not fun and games. They didn't think I could possibly be driving the truck because of my disposition. Because the truck was so smashed, we had to bust our way out. There was a little cavity, a compartment me and my kids were stuck in. And we busted out and crawled out, and I pulled them out, and we stood there and worshiped Jesus for his goodness. And the little Spanish boy that hit me came running, crying to plead because he had no driver's license, and he made a bad mistake. And I looked at him and I said, son, you made a mistake, man. I didn't know about the license stuff. I said, but you ran that sign. We all make mistakes. It just happened, man. It's okay. I said, look at your car. He's expecting me to be angry, devastated, frustrated. I said, look at your car, buddy. He looked at it. I said, look at my truck. And he's like, and I said, you need to do something with us. It's the goodness and grace of God that we're all standing here and ain't got no problems. Come on, man. Worship him with my family. And he went like this kid, Spanish kid. I said, Lord Jesus, we honor you and praise you. People were gathering to hear the cursings, the yellings, the fussings, the screamings, and all they found was a bunch of people loving Jesus. Paramedics came and they had trouble with me. They were fussing me bad. And I said, guys, I don't know where the problem is. And I said, oh my goodness, I think I understand. You don't think I was driving the truck because of the way I am right now. My disposition's throwing you. He said, sir, frustrated. If you're the driver of that truck, I'm telling you, I have been over 1,000 accidents. I've never seen anybody like you. And I smiled and said, I can explain. So I stood there, got paid by the hour, and preached the gospel. When I signed the little dischargey thing, because he wanted to take me into the hospital, and I had to sign a release because I didn't go. Not that it's wrong to go. I just knew I didn't need to go. I just wasn't going. He said, now listen, sir. He said, it's so funny. He's doing his job. He said, you were in a very high impact injury. You guys were thrown around more than you realized. There's impacts, there's things that you incurred, and your body got hit in ways in the heat of the moment, the adrenaline. And he's doing his speech. I just preached the gospel. He's freaked out by my disposition, but he's doing the speech because he's trained. It's his job. And he said, so if you wake up tomorrow, most likely you're going to have, and he started giving me the list of what I'm going to have in the morning. And I said, whoa, stop. Okay, I'm just trying to be polite, but I got to cut you off, buddy. I said, do you remember what I told you a while ago, why I am the way I am? Yeah. I said, what you're saying is your job. That's protocol. I said, what you see right now is what I'll be in the morning. Do you get it? And he went, wow, it's exact. I'm not exaggerating this. He said, I do. I said, thank you, though, for loving me and caring, but I'll be fine. He said, sir, it was a real honor meeting you. And he shook my hand and drove away stunned. You want to stun people because Jesus is way out of the box of the wisdom of the world. You want to live that way by grace. I don't live that way because I'm trying to. Because if the car smashes and I'm trying to apply the sermon that Pastor Dave preached to me, I'm late. I've become that sermon in my intimacy with Jesus, so when the metal crashes, the gospel defends. One of the reasons we seem to lose so many battles, we wait till the war's on horizon to start to fight. No, you prepare for battle now. And when the war arises, the gospel will defend you. Oh, if you just took that right there out of this whole weekend, that would save some stuff. You follow me? I don't know why this is story time this afternoon. Are you okay with the stories? Yeah. Are you? Do they help? Because here's the deal. You say, but Dan, how do I get like that? You get alone when nobody's looking. You seek Him in the secret place, guys. Yes. He says, he who is in secret will see you there and reward you in the open. What are you seeking in secret? Him. What's your reward in the open? Him. Somehow we got the idea it's always about full vats and full barns. Better job, more income, bigger house, nicer car, great spouse, bunch of amazing kids. That's all nice. But that isn't why you're a Christian. You're a Christian to be like Him. If you just make this about the blessings, you're going to be set up for disappointment. If it's just about you being taken care of, you're going to question that somewhere. Paul said, man, godliness with contentment is great gain. I know how to have plenty, and I know how to have enough, and not have enough, and not be changed. I'm not promoting lack. What I'm saying is if you're going through a dry season, don't lose your identity in it and say you're not in faith, and what am I doing wrong, and I need to pray more, and God, why are you letting... Godliness with contentment is great gain. Staying godly through it all is the whole idea. You hear? It's not just about full vats and barns, guys. It's about life transformed. Watch this. Romans 8 says He's predestined you to be conformed to the image of His Son. And who He predestined, He called. And who He called, He justified. Who He justified, He glorified. What shall we say to these things? If God be for us, who could possibly be against us? For God did not spare His own Son, but delivered Him up for us all. How shall He not freely give us all things through the Son? All things what? He's not talking about full vats and barns. All things necessary to be conformed to His image. Everything pertaining to life and godliness. Somehow we got the idea it's always about full vats and barns. I really want you to reconsider that. It's not just about prosperity and blessings and provision. It's about your heart being so one with Him that come hell or high water, you can't see no different, and Jesus is going to manifest through your life, period. And if you're chained to a wall and your back's wide open, all you can do is sing praises to Him, and every prisoner is amazed and listening. And when the anointing of God shakes the place, every yoke and every bondage breaks, not just yours, because your life had just multiplied into that prison. They could have been chained there, hurting and suffering. God, can't you watch our backs? We're trying to preach the gospel. You think He could protect us? God, I don't know if I even want to go into another city when we finally get out of here, if we even get out of here. You ain't a real good protector, God. That would be an easy American mindset, because we've made the gospel all about our well-being instead of all about His nature. You listen to TV at large. I'm not bashing ministers, any specific ministry, but at large, you listen to TV programs, and it all caters to the viewer and to the listener. Your breakthrough, your promise, your victory, your miracle gift, your provision. It's just all about you. It's just setting you up for blessing. And if you give your heart to that thing, you're actually set up for failure. You're going to weigh God and measure God and wonder why it's not working for you. And you're going to spend lots of time and energy trying to get the blessing when it's already come. Come on, follow me on this. The last thing you want to do is be a Christian for your sake. You're a Christian for His name's sake. And then you won't take life personal. You'll take Him personal and you'll see life clear. You are not a Christian for your sake. I'm not a Christian for me. I'm a Christian for His name and for you. You get it? That's why you pick up the prostitute. That's why you run from what you're doing to go find the girl in the street. That's why you stop and pray for anybody you ever pray for that you see hurting. Because you care, because you see they're hurting and you believe there's something in you that could help. And even if you don't see the miracle, the breakthrough, the release of pain in their body, man, you know you sincerely love them and you've sent them a vital message that they're important, they're worth people's time, and you've released something called the kingdom in the name of love. And who knows, in a moment that pain could leave. Let's stop turning faith into a point in time or a hit, miss, win, or lose. Faith is the position of your heart to receive what He accomplished. So let's not just pass by people freely. You get aware of somebody, did you notice somebody? Who did you ever see and you just saw they were hurting? Man, love will just take you to them. Whoever told me tell the story about Billy when I picked up Billy the homeless man? Anybody ever hear that story? Who hasn't heard that story about Billy? A lot of people haven't heard it. You mind if I tell one more little story to paint an illustration? Because this one's going to make you cry. This one's going to take the house down. It's just the way it is. I can't even, I'm ready to lose it right now. Because it was ridiculous revelation. And it shook me, man, because if you track how the church has gone over the years, we've gone through our stuff, man, with legalism and works and, some circles and the braided hair, the jewelry, the dress code, the whole, and as Christians got into that arena, they got meaner and angrier and more judgmental, the total opposite of love. Think with me. Some of these legalistic circles that are just real rigid, real narrow and rigid, they've lost the heart of the gospel. So now they're just repulsed by people that don't fit their description. Well, that's hypocrisy. Jesus called men like that hypocrites. You hypocrites. I'm telling you, if your view of the gospel isn't tenderizing your heart, you have a wrong view, because the whole goal is love. Who has a picture of Peter being rough and tumble, boisterous, little presumptuous, kind of foot and mouth? Who's ever pictured Peter kind of different than the rest of the disciples and a little bit kind of outlandish? Who has that picture of Peter? Let me show you what Peter wrote after Jesus raised from the dead and after Holy Spirit came. Since you've purified your souls in obeying the truth through the Spirit in sincere love of the brethren, love one another fervently with a pure heart. That's from Peter, the guy that whacked off the ear. Finally, all of you, be of one mind. Have compassion for one another. Love as brothers. Be tenderhearted and courteous. Don't return evil for evil or reviling for reviling, but on the contrary, blessing, knowing that you were called to this, that you would inherit a blessing. That's Peter. I don't know if you ever viewed Peter that way. I read what he wrote, man. I looked at what's coming. Above all things, have fervent love for one another, for love will cover a multitude of sin. That's Peter writing. Oh, I can see that from Apostle John. He's a lovey-dovey guy. But this is Peter. Guess what Peter is? He's lovey-dovey too. Yeah. Are you guys getting it? That's what Peter said. It's amazing. So I was going to my car. I had to go preach to some teenagers. I told them I'd be there, so I have to be there. That's my word. I'm a man of God. I tell them I'm going to be there. The only reason I'm not going to be there is if American Airlines computers aren't working. Or I'm dead or something. But I'm hustling. I don't have a lot of time, and I'm running to my car, and I looked up an alley 2 blocks away, and I saw a man hobbling across the alley. It was such a setup by God. It was so amazing. And this guy looked like he was limping, and from a distance it looked like he was wearing a white cast on his foot. So I thought, I got to be up there. And kids, I got a little time. I need to run up and just see what's going on, just see if I could pray for him. But I just wanted to. I got to do this for a testimony. You can get weird with stuff. It's love. You do compassion. So I ran up the alley, bolted 2 blocks up, turned the corner, and there he is, just going to sit on a step. I ran over him. When I looked down, it's not a cast. And I quickly saw that he was homeless. He had feces smeared on his pants. He smelled terrible. He was obviously intoxicated. What was on his foot was a bunch of pulled over old rotted up socks, because his shoe fell off his foot and it was winter, and he was trying to keep his foot covered because he had to walk on the streets. His other shoe was blown open from the toe to the heel, wide open. I said, hey man, I ran the whole way up here to see you. I'm parked down in that parking lot down there. I have to go actually preach to some kids soon and encourage them, but I thought you were in a cast. I thought your foot was hurting. And I said, but that's not a cast. He said, oh no, that's my shoe. And I said, really? And I realized he was intoxicated. I said, man, buddy, you've been hitting the bottle hard, huh? I said, you're homeless. He said, yeah. I said, you've been really drinking heavy, huh? Yeah. He said, you drink all the time? Yeah, I've been drinking. I said, yeah, I'm not harping on it. I'm not criticizing you. I was just wondering. He said, you ever try to stop? Well, I tried to stop one time. It didn't work out too well, so I don't think much about it. I just drank. Okay. I said, listen, I got to go preach to some kids. I said, you're obviously homeless. Are you going to be in this area? Like, if I'd come here tomorrow morning, could I meet you? Could I find you around 10 o'clock tomorrow morning? Why you want to find me tomorrow? I want to help you. I want to bless you, okay? He's like, what? Well, yeah, I said, will you be here? Can you be here at 10? Okay. So I left. I show up at 10, he ain't nowhere around. I was looking for him. I walked up an alley. I walked around. Oh, well, man, I tried. All of a sudden, I look up, and there he is sitting on a wall. I said, there he is. I ran over. I said, hey, Billy. He said, you came back. He's already intoxicated. He probably just doesn't stop. I said, you've been hitting that bottle already this morning, buddy. Yeah, my breakfast, you know. He said, why'd you come back? I said, I told you I'd come back. I said, I wanted to help you. He said, come on, get in my truck. Why? We'll take you to Walmart. I want to help you. Why would you help me? I said, that's the wrong question. You're in trouble. You're in need. You're a human being. My question is, why wouldn't I? I said, Billy, sometimes we ask the wrong question. Why would I? My question is, why wouldn't I? He just looked at me. I said, get in my truck. You don't understand the gospel at all. I said, I want to teach you on the way to Walmart. So I put him in my truck and I teach Billy the gospel the whole way to Walmart. How God sent His Son and why, and that our lives are so much more. He's like listening, but he's never looks at me. He's just there. You think, why bother? He's drunk. He's just going to drink again. You know, yay, good Samaritan. You're cleaning him up. He's just going to hog himself up. He's going to go back to the wallow. That's what religion says, but you better be careful, because this story is amazing. Take him into Walmart and people are splitting like the Red Sea, man. Nobody wants him. You're serious. Billy's like this. And he smells terrible and he's got poop all over his pants. Jesus shed His blood for Billy. The reason he was in the womb of his mother was because of God. And he saw, and there's a time to be born. Billy's the will of God. Those people that are splitting, a lot of them go to church. They just don't know what to do with Billy. And a lot of religion has quenched our hearts from even trying to help Billy, because he needs to change. He needs to stop drinking. Or if he'd let go of the bottle, maybe God could do something in his life. That's what we say, church. You'd be amazed how many circles talk like that. I take him in. We're grabbing clothes. I'm dressing this dude as we're going through Walmart. Walmart's amazing. I dressed this dude and gave him an extra pair of pants for like $70. It's awesome. He's seen these pants. He already had pants on. I got him socks. I got him understuff. I got him shirt. I got him spare something, and then I think a spare shirt, and then I had him this extra pair of pants because he saw these pants. He was so cute, man. He walks back. We still didn't get him sneakers. Oh, no, it's after we got him sneakers. He's coming out, and he sees these pants, and he says, oh, I like these. I didn't see these. And he's got the idea now, I'm for real. I'm dressing him. He struggled the whole time. Why are you doing this? I said, come on, Billy, I love you, man. What about the gospel? Remember Jesus? That's why I'm doing this. So he said, do you think it would be too late if I would put these back? And I'm thinking, well, that wouldn't be cool for one thing. He has them on. He didn't get a shower yet. And I said, listen, man, is there a place you can keep them? I mean, is there a place? Take them both. You get, really? Yeah, come on. But I'm back in the back and we're changing his shoe and you got to take all them socks off. His foot's oozing. This guy's nasty. This kid's coming by with a big trash bin. He's 18 years old because I asked him. And I said, hey, buddy, whoa, is that full? He said, almost. Why? I said, I need you, man. Come here. I said, listen, I got this homeless fella. I just met him out in the street. I'm just trying to help him out. But I don't want to be offensive to the people in your store. But I want to help him. He's in real need. And I said, I got some nasty stuff piled up. I've been carrying this stuff around. I was carrying his old clothes. He said, you don't know what? I ain't getting nothing from his old clothes. Knock it off. I'm not getting nothing from his old clothes. Now, I'm not telling you to carry them, but leave me alone if I want to. Because I ain't getting nothing from his clothes. If you're afraid, that's one thing. And you want to judge me as presumptuous, that's another. But leave me alone if I believe the gospel. Yeah. Oh, man. You have no idea the stuff he does to me. I got all them nasty rags, them oozy socks. We picked him up and we stuffed because I'm trying to cover up. I'm trying to help. I'm just trying to not exploit. He's already, you know what I mean? Just push it in. And this kid says, I said, I asked him how old he was. He said 18. I said, man, you look young. I was just wondering. He said, yeah, I'm 18. And then he said, I'm stuffing this stuff in. And I said, thanks, man. He said, you don't even know this guy? Did you like just meet him? I said, yeah, I just saw him on the streets. I just met him actually last night, but I didn't have time to help him, so I came back in the morning. You don't even know him? I said, no. He said, why would you do this? I said, you know, that's what he keeps asking me. I said, I'm going to ask you what I asked him, because you know how Jesus asked a question for a question? I'm just going to stick with Jesus. He's pretty cool. He said, let me ask you a question. No. He says, why would you do this? I said, well, he said that. I asked him a question. Let me ask you. Come on, look at him, man. He's a human being. He's in need. Why wouldn't I do it? Especially if I have the means. Why wouldn't I do it? The Bible says if you see people in need and have the means to help them and you shut up your heart, how can the love of God even possibly be inside of you? This man's laying along the street beaten by thieves. He's dying. The priest walks by and the Levite, that's the pastor and the worship leader, probably heading to a meeting. But the Samaritan, the rejected nation, the half-breed nation, they are cut off. They're dogs in the eyes of Israel. The priest and Levite are Israelites. But the Samaritan stopped and gave all that he had, wine and oil and wages, to help the man and didn't even know him. And that was Jesus' story when the man said, who is my neighbor? Love your as your. So if you do it for you, you should do it for another, not just a relative. So he gives this radical story and brings a Samaritan into it as the priest and Levite walk by. And there's other interpretations and meanings to that story. It's profuse, but that's one. And then he says, this is your neighbor. What's he saying? The man you see in need that you have means to help. So when I said to the kid, I said, let me ask you a question. Why wouldn't I do it? And this is exactly what this 18-year-old did. He went, whoa. And he fist bumped me. He was like, whoa, like, I get that. That's, And I thought, what a neat way to mark an 18-year-old. Get him thinking. So we hustle up. I got all these receipts. He's got all these new clothes. You should have saw Billy, man. He had size 12. He had some big dogs, man. I mean, he had some big old feet on him. But he grabs 14s because he just wants, he sees these red and black starter sneakers and he's like, new sneakers, I'll take them. And I said, whoa, Billy, them are boats, man. And I looked, I said, whoops, I better watch it. Because he definitely had some sail ships on him. I mean, he was big. But he had 14s. Did you ever look at 14s are big, man? I wear 9s. So I'm like, whoa. I said, you don't need them. He said, it don't matter. I said, no, what size do you wear? I don't know. I said, well, let's try. So we put on 12s and they fit him good. The 14s were big. But he puts on these sneakers. It made me cry. I got tears in my eyes. Because he's looking down at his feet. He's got brand new sneakers. He had one black shoe that was blown in half and a bunch of socks on the other foot. Now he's got 2 brand new sneakers. And you should have seen him. He had a little swag to him. He's in Walmart. He's like, somehow he even overcame the alcohol for a second. He's like, he's just walking in his new sneakers. I just went, oh, God, hold me together. This is ridiculous. And he's like, we're walking up to the cash register, and he's like, I just can't believe you did this. I don't know why you're doing this. I said, you stop that. You know why. I shared Jesus with you. I talked to you about the gospel. I get to the cash register. I said, hey, ma'am, listen, I got all these receipts. I hope it didn't cause a problem. Found this homeless guy, bumped into him. We got talking. I just felt like helping him. So I just met him out here in the square, and I got all these receipts. I put everything on him because it was really bad. I just went in, and she said, okay, no, that's not a problem. She's ringing up the things. And she said, you don't even know him? I said, no. She said, wow. She said, why would you do all that? I'm like, honey, that seems to be the going question. And I'm going to ask you what I asked the other 2 that asked that question. Why wouldn't I? Now watch what this lady said. You talk about a revelation. I thought, I traveled the country a lot of time to get these things across. And this lady, the lights came on in 5 seconds. Watch, that's no slam to people, but she got this. Watch. This is exactly what came out of her mouth. I said, honey, I think we asked the wrong questions. I'm going to ask you the question I asked the other 2 that asked that question. Why wouldn't I? And she went, whoa. If the whole world would think like that, it would be a different place. I went, yeah. I'm not telling you to start a ministry to take the homeless to Walmart. I'm saying we can all have a Billy.
Yeah.
That's right.
We can just all have a Billy. I haven't picked a homeless man up and taken him to Walmart since that. But I've ministered to people, and I've blessed a few people, and I've paid for a lunch here and there, and I've done stuff like that. I do it all the time. But I haven't taken a homeless man to Walmart since Billy. So I didn't turn it into a ministry, but I'm saying we can all have a Billy. We can all have that lady on the street corner. We can all live this way. So we get out to the car. Billy's in the car. We're driving to the highway. Now I'm running late because I got to go back and preach to these teenagers. And now it's taken a while because I don't do anything fast and I talk a lot. Yeah. And we're heading in, and I start getting inside information for Billy. It was intense. I said, Billy, you know what? You've been drinking since the 60s, and I see in the late 60s when your heart got really hard, man. You got so mad at people, you got hurt by men. And I started talking to Billy about some details, and he was losing it. He was choking. He hasn't cried for 50 years. And he's turning his head, or 40-some years. He turns his head to the window, and he's losing it, and he's trying to shut it down. And I'm rubbing his shoulder. I'm shocked. I was praying in tongues. Yes. Bob Hazlett says, you get out the samurai tongues. But I was going for him, right? And I'm just, Father, come, Holy Spirit, get him. And I said, Billy, and I'm talking to him, and he's just quiet. He's just staring. And I knew God was on him. You don't realize how this man's learned to live. He thinks he's winning. He thinks he's cheating the government and society. He thinks by panhandling and scamming and feeding off of men that he's getting even, or something's weird. He's not just homeless because of circumstances. His heart is bitter and hard. And somehow he thinks his lifestyle is the answer, and it's a payback. Every time he gets $10 from somebody, he feels like he's winning. He didn't panhandle me. I ran up the alley to pray for him. He knew in his heart that he wasn't scamming me. He wasn't playing me. He didn't use me. He didn't give me some story to get me $20 out of my pocket. I gave myself to him. We get to the street corner. I pulled up. I said, Billy, I need you to get out of my car. I need you to run, man. I love you, and I'm glad I got to meet you. I don't know if I'll ever see you again, but I got to go preach to these kids. I'm going to be running late here soon, so I need you to go. But it's been awesome, buddy. Thanks for letting me love on you and help you out. You look good, man. And he didn't move. He's just sitting there. I said, Billy, buddy, need you to go. He's just sitting there. I could tell he has something on his mind. He's uncomfortable. This man's been hard for 40 plus years. Mad at humanity. Mad at life. He spent an hour and a half with me. 1 hour and a half. He hauls like this. And he looks up and looks me straight in the eyes. First time we made eye contact. All morning. I said, what is it, Billy? He looked nervous. And out of his mouth he said, you know, I think I can say I love you. The Spirit of God came upon me and said, see, Dan, no man loves me first unless they see my first love. You keep loving the world. You keep loving the world. You keep loving the world. Because my people say he needs to change. My people say he needs to stop drinking. My people say he needs to clean up. Keep loving the world. I sat there and cried so hard I couldn't even drive. I bawled and I bawled and I bawled. And finally I said, Billy, you've got to get out of my truck. Truck. Closed the door. I turned the corner. Because the Lord said, no one loves me first. We're telling people to love God. And it's God's first love that inspires love. 1 hour and a half. Don't hear this wrong. 1 hour and a half with Jesus, not religion. Melted 40 years of deception and found a space in his heart. You say, well, brother, he probably drank a bottle that night. He probably just, oh, you foolish men that don't understand the gospel. Well, we'll just be drunk. You'll get poop on them pants. Some sow, some water. God gives the increase. You keep thinking the way you're thinking, Billy's lost for sure. And he has no hope because you don't look anything like Jesus, friend. It doesn't take anybody to sit back and judge a man. But it takes the Holy Ghost to love a man. Even in his sins. You can all have a Billy. You know, keep your heart free from that thing called religion. I'm telling you, I'm not preaching to a bunch of people that are messed up. I'm preaching to a bunch of people that God says we can do this and you're willing. I know it. I know who I'm preaching to. We're just expanding borders. We're just painting even higher. We're just saying, hey, this thing is real and we're in the right place at the right time. I ain't preaching to a bunch of hard-hearted religious Christians. I'm preaching to people that'll love Billy now that they pass his way. And you hear these kind of stories and you're just inspired and sharpened all the more to go the extra mile and lay down your life. You follow me? Guys, we can all have a Billy. You take and look at the faces that I'm seeing right now. And we just start walking in love and touching as you go without projecting, without being just sheerly evangelistic or trying to get numbers or trying to qualify. Just sincerely, even just a person a day, you would viably just touch someone and sow a seed of love into them and show them they have value. The number of faces I'm looking at in this small room, just one a day, and 30 days rolls by and you multiply that, and 90 days rolls by and you multiply that. You are touching your region, society, your culture, not with religion, not with just preaching, but with love. All of a sudden you start doing that and you catch the vision of how free it is and how awesome it is, and you start, woohoo, this is awesome, I was made for this. And all of a sudden your 1 is turning into 5 and you ain't even trying it. And all of a sudden your 5 can't help but to be 6 and 7 just because you're around folks more than other people are sometimes. And all of a sudden you multiply that by a month and you multiply that by the faces I'm looking at. The next thing you know, you have sown major, major seeds of love into your community. And now when you pray for God to bring increase, there's something to draw upon. Because if you sow, something surely grows. For as the bridegroom, or as the garden causes the things in it to grow, so shall, the bridegroom was right before that. I'll just use this example. As the garden causes the things in it to grow, so shall the Lord caused righteousness to spring out of the earth. What did he use the analogy of? A garden and sowing. Why? Because if we sow, righteousness will come.
That's good.
Every time you encourage somebody, every time you bless somebody, every time you take the back seat, every time you send a picture that's different than the attitude in the room, you're sowing seed and don't even realize how powerful it is. Every time your coworkers see you in consistency and start to get a tone through you because you're around them a lot, you're sowing into their life. Every time you just pay a bill for somebody or you do something sweet. I was in a restaurant a little while back. I was just in not a fast food, it was a sub shop. I was grabbing a sandwich, and the lady in front of me, she was ready to pay, and she didn't have the money on her. And then she said, oh no, I didn't know I didn't have that much cash. Now maybe I have a card. And he said, well, we don't let you use a credit card unless it's this minimum. And I said, hey, what do I owe you, buddy? He said, oh, I'm sorry, let me take care of this man. And I said, no, well, what's my bill? And he said, whatever it was. And I handed him the amount of money that covered both bills plus extra. And I said, listen, that's for her too. Have a great day. You keep the rest. And I didn't give anybody a chance to say nothing. I just bolted out the store. Because it wasn't about me. And they're like, who was that unmasked man? Was that Jesus? Yeah. But what I was saying about Billy, 1.5 hours. I said, don't hear this wrong. 1.5 hours with Jesus. Because that's who's in me, that's who's in you. That's why you don't want to be self-conscious. That's why you don't live conscious of yourself and fear of man and people-pleasing and what men are thinking. You grow close to Jesus in prayer and relationship, and you keep understanding why you're on the earth, and you stir your heart and keep yourself accountable and stay fixed on that truth so that truth can have its way and ravage your life. Don't grow weary in well-doing. You stir yourself up. You encourage yourself. You don't let yourself grow weary. And pick up what you laid down. Because you'll reap a reward in due time if you don't lose heart. You can't afford to lose heart. It's not about you. It's about His great name and the world you live in, and you've already won. It's not about how you feel and what you think and yeah, but they and Man, if Jesus had that vocabulary, He wouldn't have made it through the day. You guys all right? Man, I hope you're getting this. I thought I knew where we were going, and I ended up storytelling. I don't storytell like that too much anymore. I told a bunch of them, didn't I? There's a lot of stories. You want a Christian history. You want to live this way. You get a bunch of stories in your heart. I lay on my bed sometimes and reminisce the things that God's done over the years, and it just gets overwhelming. You just cry. There's people that should be dead and they're alive. There's kids that shouldn't be and they're in school. Soon they'll be getting married and they shouldn't even be here according to the world. There's a lot of good things going on, man. There was one time I was discouraged about something and I didn't even know it. And to my knowledge, unless I've been deceived, I have no understanding of discouragement in my life since that day. I really don't, because discouragement is self-focused. It's thinking for you. The Gospel's taught me how to never be discouraged. There was a time my wife was in identity crisis. My kids were making bad decisions. It looked like my family was falling apart, and it looked like it was all falling on me, because if you can't even manage your own family, how are you going to, and all that stuff. And people could ask questions, and it was just their decisions. It was deception. No matter how I spoke, it would look and, well, yeah, but, and I'm like, no, guys. And not one time did I lose heart or need you to pray for me. Not one time did I feel sorry for myself or, honey, you need to pull through and get with it, man. You're putting a lot of pressure on me. No, she probably needs me more now than ever if she's that deceived, if she's hurt. She probably doesn't need me falling apart and putting a demand and obligatory relationship in front of her. She probably needs to see Jesus clearer than ever, huh? Guess what I did in that season when that all took place? It lasted a bunch of years, man. I thrived and I flourished and grew into this message you see me passionately preach. See, there's more behind the scenes of what I'm preaching than you realize. I just don't exploit everything. I tell as much as I can, but there's so much more I could tell. But you can tell I really believe what I'm saying. You've known me for a while. In the early days. But there's no rise, and you ain't getting a change out of me. You know why? Watch this. This isn't arrogant. I'm a man of God. I gave my life to Him a long time ago, and I ain't playing. And what you see is what you get. And when I stand before Him, the Bible says I'll have boldness. Because love is perfected in this. In the day of judgment, you have boldness, because as He is, so are we in this world. Guess what gives you boldness? Your hearts become love. And when He looks inside of you, He'll see Himself. And you'll be unashamed. Did you get it? As He is. How is He? He is love. The whole chapter, He is love, He is love, He is love. And it says, this is the confidence or the boldness we have. And love is perfected in this. We have boldness in the day of judgment, because as He is, so are in this. So you can't tell me that the whole goal of the gospel isn't becoming like Him and being restored to love. It's not about full vats and barns. It's about becoming love. You get any other belief in your life, you're going to be disappointed and you'll probably not run well. How's that for straight? If you get any other motive for being a Christian, you'll probably be disappointed. And have the right to be. But it's a lack of understanding. So you can't say you haven't heard, because I've preached it really clear, and I know this guy preaches clear. I can tell just hanging around him. So let it hit your heart. Make no excuses, and don't yell but the gospel. Say, yay, Lord. We wear shirts at home, say, yay, God. It just keeps us really in a good, yay, God. We wear them all the time. I got one in my suitcase. I'll probably wear it to bed tonight. Yay, God. It's pretty hard not to remember Him when you go to the mirror to brush your teeth. Yay, God. You guys all right? You're asking if I'm all right. I heard a minister say once, I'm not out of my mind, I'm out of your mind. I thought that was funny. He said, you say, brother, you're out of your mind. No, I'm out of your mind. He said, I'm in the mind of Christ. Be serious with me. The world has trained us a wrong way. By sheer instinct, you were trained a certain way. You were trained to hurt when you were done wrong. You were trained to feel conscious. You were born into the fall of man. The Bible says man was formed in iniquity in his mother's womb. That's like, bleh. Romans 5 says you were born into Adam, so you were born into everything he fell into. And you must be born. Surely that's more than a passport to heaven. That's all things being made new. So I want to encourage you to continue to renew the spirit of your mind and follow truth through the life of Jesus. And if you can't find it in His life, then don't let it be found in yours. If you can't find in your belief system what you see in Jesus' life or vice versa, then throw it out of your belief system. You follow what I'm saying? Okay. Oh, what to do, what to do, what to do. Okay. We're going to do this real quick. Go to Colossians 3 and I'm done. I thought I was done, but I didn't know for sure. I can do this quick. I know you don't believe me. It's all right. I feel the unbelief. It's all around me. I feel it. But it's rightfully so. I've already damaged you. I won't blame you. Man, I ate a chimichanga. That thing was good. Man, that was good. I was like, thank you, Jesus. Life is good, man. Oh, I'm okay.
This is for you've done 2 of your 6 hours, so you need more water.
Let's go. I did 2 of my 6. I'm not going 6, man. They couldn't take it. I was too much. But I was in California one time. They wouldn't let me quit preaching. It was my last night of 5 days. I was there 5 days. I did a Christian school last period. And all the girls, I don't know what was going on, but I was preaching, and all the girls that were seniors were sitting there crying. And the other kids were just froze, man. And the bell rang, and I didn't realize it. It was the end of the day. I thought it was the end of the period. I thought we were doing their chapel, and they were going to go to another class. It was the end of the day. Time to go home. And the principal cried. Because when the bell rang, I said, listen, guys, I know you need to get to another class or whatever, but if we can get notes or something, we can. But, man, I just need to finish this one part, and if you really have to go, just go. But I'm really trying to wrap up, and I want to pray over you guys quickly. Nobody budged, and we were there another 15 or 20 minutes, and not one kid moved out of their seat, and it was the end of the school day. Parents were waiting outside to pick kids up. She told me whenever they did a speaker on the chapel at the end of the day and they ran a minute over if the bell rang, the kids would scream, laugh, push their chairs, and run out and just be rude and run right out on the speaker. She said they've done it every time, and she talks to them about it. But they say, hey, it's the end of school. He should have been done. And there I was, and the bell rang, and nobody budged. What an honor. She said, this was God. Those kids didn't even move. I said, yo, it was God. Did you see them? They were crying. So long story short, I did 5 services on the last night. They wouldn't let me quit preaching. I told them I need to stop. And they literally in unison were yelling, no, no, preach, preach, preach. I said, you people are off your rockers. I said, I've been preaching for 3 hours and you're like, preach, preach. Just keep, I preach forever. I saw a lady get brand new lungs in that service. She had smoked her whole life and quit smoking and realized that she damaged her lungs, and it hit her. When the damage finally came, the reality of you shouldn't be smoking and you're hurting yourself hit her. It took that long. And sometimes it takes that long. And it hit her, and she was sorry she smoked, but she couldn't take away that she smoked all those years. I think she smoked like 40-some years. She came up front and she said, I hear what you're preaching. She said, I'd love new lungs. I made a big mistake. I've put a lot of smoke into my lungs. Holy Spirit dredged her lungs. It looked like a demonic manifestation. She was convulsing, gagging, because I asked the Lord to dredge her lungs. And I thought, man, is this demonic? And I said, Lord, do I need to do something here? This looks like a stronghold of demonic. He said, well, you asked me to dredge your lungs. It was like, that's what happened. I'm like, it was the most putrid smell you've ever smelled in your life coming out of her mouth. It was coming up out of the depths of her lungs. Holy Spirit was dredging it out. And it was coming out of her mouth as she was gagging. It was like, wow. If it had been like a cartoon, it would have been all this green, nasty smoke, you know. It was so putrid. It was almost sickening. And after she got done gagging, the Lord said, I've given her new lungs, Dan. Have her breathe in your face. I said, well, she's going to feel weird, but I'm going to ask her. I said, honey, I need you to breathe in my face. She said, excuse me? Just go ahead. Breathe in my face. She's like, and it's just like, did you ever notice a baby doesn't have bad breath because they're a baby, they're newborn. There's nothing in them to be bad. You couldn't tell she breathed on me. There was no, and I'm telling you, you couldn't even stand it before. And she goes, I'm a runner, right? At least 9 months of the year, the last couple I've been, you can probably tell I haven't run. But she goes, because I asked her to breathe in with me. I said, you follow me and don't quit till I quit. So I'm doing this and she's doing it with me. And then she's like, oh, because she would go, she'd breathe in just a little bit. She's bawling. God gave her brand new lungs. I don't know how many hours I preached, but oh my gosh, I preached, and God, the pastor's brother, took hepatitis out of him. They sent him to 3 clinics and find no markers, no antibodies, no nothing. It was gone. Yeah. You know what happened on that night? I tell the story. I shouldn't have told the story because I never drank so much root beer in my entire life. Everywhere I went after I told this story, everybody had root beer waiting on me. I was like, dear Jesus, we got to quit with the root beer. I used to like root beer. I don't drink a lot of soda, but when if I'm real thirsty late at night, I'm preaching like that. Came through the hotel, the machines, bzzz, the little soda machine back in the ice corner, just humming, keeping chilled. And I just pictured this little cold, frosty root beer just sitting in there shivering, waiting for me. And I thought, ooh, root beer. I'm going to get me a root beer. I just feel like it right now. I go, it's California. It's $2 for a 12-ounce little can. I didn't really notice that until I slugged the machine. I went, whoa, California. And I was like, oh my goodness, there's no root beer on the selection. I put my $2 in and there's no root beer on the selection. They got 2 Pepsis, 2 Sprites, 2 waters, and I'm like, 2 of everything. This is Noah's Ark. This isn't, there's no root beer. You know what? I didn't complain and I didn't go, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. A hotel like this? What's the sense of having a machine if you don't even have root beer? Why do you got 2 this, 2 this, 2 this? Mix it up a little diversity, 5-star hotel. Yeah, right, you don't even have root beer. You know, refund, you know, money. You don't complain. You don't, your life's a gift. Nobody owes you anything. I didn't read the list. I didn't see there was no root beer, but I wanted root beer. So I looked and I thought, oh, well, I slugged the money. I said, man, I like Sprite. Sprite's a good second best. Or ginger ale it was. I hit it, and a Barge's root beer fell in the tray. Now you talk to me a little bit. It took 5 seconds to register. I picked it up and I went. I didn't know what to do. Got my root beer. And then it just touched me. I'm like, nobody knows, this doesn't change the world. But man, do you love me. And the Lord taught me in that moment, standing there, about not complaining and not having a bad attitude and not being presumptuous and not just expecting the world of everybody. And He told me that He easily can reward me with these things because of where my heart's sitting. So I just floated in my room. I don't even think my feet touched the floor. It would bother me because when I used to travel back then, this was years ago, everybody always rolled this red carpet. Everybody wants to carry your bag, do all this stuff. And I'm like, leave my bag alone. It's okay. I'll get my bag. And they give you this big king bed. And I can't even find the edges, I don't need a king bed. I'd sleep on a couch. And I'm like, man, if my wife was in there, I'd be like, Kim, good morning. It's like crazy. This big king bed's there. And they would get me these, and these are extra expenses. And I'm thinking, this isn't a way to honor a guy like me. I don't need this for honor. This actually, save your monies. And I was troubled with the king bed. And I finally got over it. I thought, you know what? Root beer. There wasn't even any. I'm going to sleep with the king. King bed works. So I just leaped up in the center of that thing. I kicked back against the wall. And you should have seen it. I went. Slow-mo. Weeping the whole time. Communing with Jesus, drinking root beer. Now, you health fanatics, I know you struggle with that because He put the root beer in that machine for me. People are troubled with all kinds of things, man. Don't be troubled. Trouble, hunting, I hunt a little bit. I like to hunt a little bit. And people say, you hunt? You're so full of love of God? Well, it's your perspective. Deer, I love deer. They're beautiful. The big brown eyes and lashes, but it's all in your perspective. Come September, I see sticks of bologna with 4 legs. That's all I see. it's these beautiful animals turn into cheese-filled hot dogs with hooves. I'm like, I'm sorry. I might have ruined your image of me. I don't know. But what I'm saying is I was sitting in a tree stand one day and I was just rested and relaxed and I wasn't seeing nothing. And the Lord said, you better get up. You're going to miss the opportunity. The Lord, you better get up. You're going to miss the opportunity. I stand up and boom, in no time I have a deer. He told me to get up. I was hunting turkeys one day, didn't hear a turkey. I was ready to go down to my truck. I had a 7-mile walk, and I'm like, man, I better get down there. I'm going to have to meet my buddy. I need to head that way. He said, don't go that way. Go out this way till 9 o'clock, walk to the flat, call from there. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're hunting turkeys with me? I mean, I know you're with me theologically, but you actually care about a turkey out there? I cried. I was like, are you kidding? You want to be that personal? So I'm like, well, I'm doing this. It was 5 and 9. 6 minutes till 9. You can walk a long way in 6 minutes in the woods. I kept walking and walking, and right at 9 o'clock, I'm on this big flat. I hadn't heard a turkey all morning. I get my little car. Ah! Are you kidding me? So Jesus hunts with me. I'm sorry if you struggle with that. He gave me a root beer. I'm sorry. Take it up with the king. Write your letter to him. I got that turkey in 40 minutes. He was good in the pressure canner. He was really good. Don't be bothered by that stuff. You eat turkey at Thanksgiving probably. Somebody had to chop his head off. It just wasn't you. It's okay, but you ate it. So if I don't have trouble chopping its head off, leave me alone. Man, he was good. Every creature's good, received with thanksgiving. So anyhow, I don't know how I got on that, man. Oh my goodness. Oh, I am definitely working the clock. You guys ready? We'll do this quick. This is going to be our prayer. This is going to be our faith before God, okay? You know why we have a lot of fun in the middle of it all? Well, I say a lot of intense stuff. Did you notice that? Real convicting. Did you get convicted at all this weekend? Did you get there was some sober things. I've said some things that are striking. I've seen a lot of tears in a lot of eyes, especially today. But did you hear how we're laughing our way through it? And it's not, God doesn't want you overwhelmed. He doesn't want some heavy message. It's lighthearted, but it's life-changing. It's not lighthearted in the sense of casual. Man, we can laugh our way through and be changed. God's amazing. He's like fun. But yet he has a heart cry. And the whole world's in front of you. And you could get, well, you shouldn't even be hunting. The whole world's going to hell. Why are you even out there hunting when people need Jesus? You know, you can get that way. I bumped into hunters and prayed for the sick in the woods. I've fished. I've pulled my boat up on the shore and prayed for men that were wearing casts and that were hurting. I've seen so much stuff. Pulled into a boat ramp and a man was covered with a rash just so I could lay hands on him. So see, I can go fishing, but I'm never out of Him.
That's right.
You don't segregate yourself from the world. You separate yourself from the world. You can still go fishing. You can go bowling. Just look like Jesus when you're bowling. You and your buddies can go golfing. It doesn't have to be an idolatry or an addictive habit or something that you're hiding behind. As you're golfing, look like the Son of God. You think, yeah, I wish I would be holes in one every time. No, I'm not talking about your play. I'm talking about your character. Are you following me? Sometimes we get so religious we think we can't do anything. No, you can do a lot of things. You just do it in this truth. And if we're spread out in all these arenas as the body of Christ, we're going to be very effective. True? You say, well, you shouldn't be in that bowling league. All they do is drink and cuss. Maybe that's why you should be in it. And if your wife and everybody's in agreement, or maybe she can get on the couples league with you or something, man, and you really want to go bowl, don't feel like, well, I can't be around them. They're a bunch of heathen. Go bowl on the league. And manifest the Son of God and walk in love. And let the nature of Christ flow out of you. You say, Pastor, I can't believe you're telling me to do that. Go get on this team and all they do is swear. Well, maybe they need to see what life can look like. Because if you avoid them, all they know is what they know and what they're teaching each other. Maybe they need the truth made flesh. And where we got so religious that we think you can't be around those folks, He never told you not to be around those folks. That's where Jesus hung. Are you guys okay with that, or is that bothering you? Okay? Oh, you're going to Colossians 3. I thought you wanted to say something. You looked excited or something. I thought you was ready to preach, man. I was like ready to throw you this thing. I was like, well, you got this. He's like, I was like, what are you doing? You big kid. You look good in that little beard, man. I like that. It's all white. It's wisdom, I'm telling you. Are you really? When I got saved, my coworkers saw me after I left for pastoring, and the next time they saw me, my hair was almost like this. My hair, I didn't have a gray hair on my head, and I was 33 when I was saved. I was turning 34, and it was already peppered on the side. There's nobody, nowhere in my family, nobody has any idea. There's nobody has hair like this, and I was 34, and it was already, by the time I was about 38, it was almost completely. By the time I was 40, it was gone, man. And I loved it. I said, hey, all I know is the more I read my Bible and the more I pray, it turns this way. It's got to be wisdom, the presence of God. It's something. It's like Moses on the mountain, you know, Charlton Heston in the Moses movie, and he comes down with the tablets, and he's just long white hair, and before that it was just hair, and then he comes down from all that time with the Lord, and he's like beaming. I thought, that's what this is, man. I bumped into some coworkers, and the guy goes into work, and he says, man, Dan must have made a wrong decision pastoring and leaving his job. He must be under so much stress. His hair is all gray. And all of a sudden we think gray hair is stress. It's a crown of righteousness. It's a crown of wisdom. Are you kidding me? So I like your beard, man. Jesus has been teaching you. It's popping out in your beard. Amen. I like it. Okay, since you've been raised with Christ, we're actually reading Colossians 3. We are there. Since you've been raised with Christ, he's not saying since meaning, or if. I said since because I like to read it since, because the word if sounds like he's questioning if you've really been raised with Christ. He's not saying if challenging your salvation. The word, it's a little Greek word that means since. Since you've been raised with Christ. Since you've been raised with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ is. See, we always talk about heaven on earth. Your will be done on earth as in heaven. Bill Johnson wrote that book, which was amazing. The book was awesome. I read most of it, and it was really written amazing. It's actually affected a lot of pastors that didn't even have a grid for maybe what they would stereotype Bill or some other folks to be, but when they read the book, things clicked. I heard a lot of pastors make a lot of good comments, even in some circles back home, that that book helped break them through to like understand the gospel. So the book was amazing. Heaven invades earth. But this is really what this is talking about. It's saying, listen, guys, if you're raised with Christ, seek the things which are above where Christ is, sitting at the right hand of God. Now watch. He's telling you to set your mind, because your mind could go other places. Your mind could be thinking real clear for a week, and all of a sudden you get a little distracted, get a little unresolved conflict. Next thing you know, for 3 days, you're just thinking in straight up flesh. You got to set your mind on the things above, not the things of the earth. Come on, that's a command. If you see in my Bible, you see all these colors? I do that myself. It's really fun because then you can pull everything out. Like I do. I got this thing color-coded, man. That's my color code. Green is love, blue is Holy Spirit, orange is promises, purple is commandments and conditions for promises, blood's the redemption in the blood of Jesus. And yellow is just, You know what I mean? So everywhere you see this purple, they're conditions. They're commandments of the Lord, these purple. Everywhere you see orange, it's a promise. You'll notice that whenever you see a promise in the Bible, there's usually a condition to land that promise. The promise isn't just open-ended. There's usually something you position for. It's not a works thing. It's usually a love, obedience. It's just an outcome of walking in the truth. So the promise is usually hinged to a commandment or a condition for receiving that promise. Do you get what I'm saying? So I just like to write all that stuff out. Like a while ago when I read through Peter and read all those love things he wrote, you know how I found them so quick? Not because I'm a great Bible scholar, because I colored them all green because they're love. So I just read all the green. It's so good. Isn't that cool? Look, there's a lot of green here. We're heading there. See the green? We're getting there, guys. That's where we're heading. Well, we got to go through the purple and the orange to get there. Isn't this just a journey through the colors of God? Uh-oh. Now I get the New Age crowd in with me. Brother. I had a lady come to a healing service. She said, I have never seen so many colors. Yeah, I said, they're pretty intense. Jesus is amazing. Now give me your hand. Let's pray. Fire! Yes, she's like, wow, the colors. Fire! No, I'm just kidding. I did not treat her that way. Since then you were raised with Christ. Seek the things which are above, where Christ is sitting at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things above, not the things of the earth. For you died. You did not pray a prayer to go to heaven. You died. You were buried with him in baptism. So that as truly as he died, surely as he died, you died with him, and as he raised, you will raise in the newness of life. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Come on, you did not just receive Jesus into your heart. You died. Man, I just want to preach that all across the earth a lot louder than we have for the last 30 years. We've made it about a fish in the tank. We've made it about a prayer to go to heaven. We've made it all about getting your name in the book called life, and we forgot to die along the way. You all right? Come on, I don't know how we thought that the gospel was a prayer to go to heaven. It's the answer of a brand new life. It's the transformation of all things. It's old things passing away, all things becoming new. Repent, change the way you think. Why? His kingdom's here. That brings change in everything. We've reduced it to a prayer to go to heaven and the forgiveness of sins, and then nothing else about your life gets challenged. You just feel safe in some sense of a way. But you can hurt like you hurt before you prayed the prayer. You can be angry like you can judge like you... No, we die. Not overemphasizing. It's a big deal. You can't live until you die. Unless the seed dies and falls to the ground, it abides alone. It's just all about the seed. It never reaches its potential. But if a seed would ever die and fall to the ground, it'll spring up and bear much fruit. You get it? Yeah. So you died. You died. See, Paul's saying you're raised with Christ and you died. So he's believing the best. He's writing this thing, man. You died and your life is hidden with Christ in God. And when Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory. That's pretty amazing. Therefore, because this is true, in light of what I've just said, that's what he's saying, put to death your members which are on the earth. Fornication, uncleanness, passion. See, they all stem from self-centered desire. True? Where would fornication even come from? The need to feed your flesh and fulfill a desire. The need to not feel alone, to want to emotionally exchange with somebody, to feel secure, to express something. It's all self-serving. It has so many different deceptive attachments to it. We have been trained by the flesh. There's people that fall out and they go through horrendous, terrible things, and then they have this emotional, starry-eyed 3-hour makeup session, and it almost always involves, you followed me, right? And then 5 hours after that, we're wondering why we just did that, because, man, I think you're stupid. It's just emotion stuff. It's just, oh. It's fornication. It doesn't say manage it. Put it to death. See, I preach grace with transformation. I don't just preach grace as a permission slip. Here's what people do with grace. They're not married, they're just together, and they're sure they're in love, and they're sure they're going to get married, so they say, hey, we're going to get married anyway. You know, you really turned me on. Yeah, I was just thinking that about you. Yeah, you know, oh, yeah, I know, but we shouldn't do this. You know, we should. I know, we shouldn't really. You know, but God will love us anyway. God will. That's what people do. They do it all the time. And they don't have to be teenagers. They're in their 40s. They're in their 50s. I pastored, I know. They do that stuff all the time. It's not cool. It teaches you to stay sensual and live in the flesh and fuel your own fire and emotions. You're feeding something that needs to die. Yeah. It's actually devaluing one another and using one another to fulfill a need. And you're reducing I love you to I need you. A woman's more than the fulfillment of a sexual desire, and a man wasn't created to lust. He's created to love. Some women nowadays are in the same boat as the men, and they think the more they're with men, the more womanly they are. It's changed a lot over the years. These kids in this generation that's here now, we need this revelation, because sometimes it's almost backwards. The girls are, the more guys they can sleep with, the more popular they are. When I was a kid, they kept that stuff secret and quiet, but there was still happening. It's really changed, man. It's like, whoa. Come on, that's not what makes you special, guys. You put to death fornication. That's the way you really honor your partner. You say, listen, you were made for one man. And I know you feel like it's going to be me, and you're only 18, and you know you ain't going to get married till you're 22. Because you're finishing college, and you've already talked. And you say, listen, we're going to be together for 4 more years, and I love you. And I don't want to cross any lines. And you're the guy. And I just want to tell you, I honor you, and you are beautiful to me, and you are precious, and you are worth waiting till I'm 22, and we enter into covenant where all that is mine is yours, and yours is mine. You were designed for one man, and I want to be that man, and I'm going to live in honor in your presence. No, honey, right now, I'm telling you, you come together with me now. I love you. I trust you. Come here. I just want to be close. You tell her no. It happens that way nowadays. Sometimes the women need that for a false sense of security. Sometimes they're taught that if the man doesn't want to be with them, they're not desirable. I don't know why I'm on this, but it just seems like I need to just stay there just a little bit, so that's why I stayed there. But I'm telling you, that's integrity. And then in that time, see, a woman's made a certain way. She has a layer of skin. It's a hymen. You guys know this stuff. There's only one. When it's broke, it doesn't grow back. It's made for covenant. It's made for one. That doesn't mean if you lost that thing, it's over and you blew it. It means that you didn't understand. But there is a place to position yourself to be a virgin in the sight of God again, where your heart's pure, and you never did that before. Do you get it? Come on, did God make us? What, do you think He just flippantly stuck that little layer of skin in there? Come on. There's a little releasing of blood when that thing breaks. There's blood in the man's semen. The two come together on the covenant night and they exchange. It's a blood covenant. You're made for one. There's no condemnation in what I'm saying. If you've crossed that line, if you've been with 21, it's get a grip now so you stop living in weakness and insecurity and selling out your honor, your identity, and your dignity. And fall in the mercy of God. You've heard those testimonies. Bethel's had a bunch of them. I've had my own, man. God grows hymens back. He restores things. It's ridiculous when hearts repent and get right. I had one guy fasted 7 days before he got married because he just wanted to be like Jesus in his marriage. And his girl came to me crying and said I was promiscuous when I was young and I didn't know what I was doing. And this message is so beautiful. Blah, blah, blah. I said, you just be in faith and you just thank God that you can come together with him. You've never done what you're about to do with him. You've never given your heart this way. You've never been loved like he's loving you. So this isn't the same. This is different. But on wedding night, she literally had a hymen. And she had slept with several boys in high school. And she experienced cutting of covenant. And she just laid there as he came into her and she just wept and the presence of God enveloped them. And he's on a 7-day fast and they're just cutting covenant and union and one together. Now they have a bunch of kids and they're leaders in a church and it's just powerful. Ah! That sure beats orgasms and flesh and goosebumps. And oh, you're hot. That's just deeper. Hello? It's all right if I talk plain. Come on, we're not naive. If there was anything ever exploited, it's this topic. It's all over the magazines, the news, the commercials, the billboards. Come on. There's nothing more exploited and perverted as sexuality. There's nothing they use as enticement more than women's bodies, dress wear, sensual. There's no topic on the earth that's been exploited more than the one we're talking about. Why? Because he's a counterfeiter. And this is the thing you need to get. If there's something he's spent that much time into and investing into counterfeiting, there must be an amazing holy root there and valuable lump there that we might not even look for. Because you don't just counterfeit $1 bills. You don't get rich that way. You counterfeit things with great value. And if you find something that has been exploited more than anything you've ever found, then that thing at its root must have an amazing holy truth. And I bet you God didn't make man or woman because man was lonely. It's not good that you be alone. See, God knew man couldn't live without woman. He made man. Woman is more than fulfilling the empty vacuum of a man. He's in the image of God. There is no vacuum. It's not good to be alone because there's nowhere to exchange and become and multiply and be fruitful. That's why God made man to multiply himself. So he didn't make another lump of clay. He reached into man and brought out the woman. They were already one in him. So he made the two one out of one, or the one two out of one, so two could enjoy being one. You're not another lump of clay. He reached into the fullness of God in man and brought forth the woman. He didn't make another lump of clay. He's naming all the animals. Everything he's saying, God's saying, yep, that's awesome, Adam, you're amazing. And he says, man, it ain't good this guy be alone. There's no one comparable. Where's he going to go with this? How's he going to multiply this? Where's the avenue for him to express who I am? So he reaches into Adam and brings out what was already there in him. And makes one two, so two could enjoy being one. Honestly, scripturally, the highest expression of God on the earth is two wills, synergism, two souls entering into a covenant, union, communion, marriage, where they live from the same place. Love. This is the highest place. I've had encounters with my wife in synergism I've never had on my own in the bedroom. I've had encounters in prayer with my wife in synergism that I've never had in my own personal union with God, because it's two wills, two souls, two hearts, two lives surrendered for one cause. So 1 + 1 is a stronger 1. It's not 2. Now, don't answer that in math class. You'll flunk. But 1 + 1 is a stronger 1. My wife and I first entered into that thing, and we started to see that. It was ridiculous, and it was amazing how God moved in that arena. Because it's 2, 1. Two wills surrendered for a cause. You hear that? Oh, it's powerful. And in that place, it's not I need you. It's I love you. And just pray through on what I'm saying, because I'm not going into the rest of the teaching. There's a lot I could teach on this because I learned it firsthand. But I believe our sex drive's perverted. I believe your desires and everything we study about man is the fall of man, and I don't believe it's our created original value. God didn't make man to live at the expense of man. And God didn't make you with a desire that's at the cost of another. God made you to love. And love doesn't seek its own. So we got to grow past, it's been 3 days, honey. Got to grow way past that. And women, you have to be careful when I preach this stuff that you don't shut up your heart and then work it against your husband. It's hard to preach this. The Lord told me I don't have much liberty to preach this because we'll hurt each other with it instead of get free. He said because of where our hearts are, we'll hear the message for each other instead of ourselves. It really makes me cry. It's hard when you can't preach what you want to. Paul said there's things I want to say, but because if you're preaching and you're elbowing your spouse, you're hearing it wrong. You're hearing it for them. If you use what I say against them and make them frustrated and hold out on them because they're not living up to what I said, well, then you're missing what I said to you. So all of a sudden I can't even preach freely because we'll hear it wrong. But boy, we need to hear freely in this area, I promise. I promise. When I got saved, I knew that my definition of manhood was very perverted. And I cried in my bedroom when you weren't looking. And I said, God, you couldn't have made me this way. You won't hear this preached much, but I'll tell you, I lived this. I said, you couldn't have made me this way. I said, you never made me to live at the expense of someone. I said, it's totally selfish to the core. I've learned my manhood through magazines, books, the locker room, through life. Teach me who I am. And I cried and raised my hands and said, set me free, Jesus. And I'm telling you, He set me free. He really set me free. Yay. So guess what you put to death? If this wasn't possible, how would He tell us to put it to death? If it always has to be there. If it's the way we really are, how can you put it to death? So maybe in all our getting, we get understanding, huh? In our understanding, we're empowered to live free. Yeah. I'm messing with you. I can feel the heads churning, man. You seek out the truth of what I'm teaching you. You go to God and say, Lord, He's got me intrigued. If there's a greater root, and this thing's been exploited so much, that there's a greater root, show me what that is. Show me the holiness of this arena and teach me the beauty of it. Show me what you intended from the beginning. I'm telling you, especially the guys. Guys, if you would be the leader in this and go to God and start teaching this and talking this way, your wives would meld into it. Because here's what your wives are made to be. They're made to receive and respond to the unconditional, pure, and holy love of God through her man. And it's the most beautiful relationship. It's all that is mine is yours and yours is mine. And you won't have to ask or need anything. People meld into one another. Love just produces love. And it's not reciprocal in the sense of, well, I'm doing this so I get this. It's just love, and it's ridiculous. My wife owes me nothing. And she knows that. And in that truth, she lays down her life for me freely. Do you get it? It's not 50-50 give and take. You do for me, I do for you. I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. That is the world. It's not the 5 greatest needs of a man, the 5 greatest needs of a woman. You just set the spouses up to fail and then the other spouse to have an excuse when their needs aren't met. But somehow we teach this stuff like big time because we've studied man, not Jesus. I'm really in dangerous waters here right now. So put to death your members which are on the earth. I'm not bashing ministries and teaching. I'm saying there's some things we teach that we're just not understanding. If you teach me that my wife has 5 needs of a woman and I'm her husband and now I have to fulfill those needs, so if I'm lacking in one, it gives her a reason not to be okay because, hey, he didn't meet my need. He didn't speak my language. He didn't fulfill my womanly created. And all of a sudden, she's no stronger than I'm doing. So I might as well be Lord. Come on, my wife could walk out on me. It doesn't change Christ. Hello? It doesn't change my destiny. It doesn't change my purpose, my created value. Why do I put all my chips on a human decision when the Spirit of God lives in me? Our relationships are driven way more by need than we'd care to admit than they are by love. That's why we're so broken and can't get over the things we've been through. I'm thinking when people live that way, they're probably the one in trouble, huh? Why are we taking it so personal? If I go home and my wife would be with some man in an inappropriate situation, why would I sit and break and cry for me? She's obviously in a very serious, detriment, bad place. Why wouldn't it be easy to cry for her and think, God, how did she get here? What's going on in Kimmy? What's going on in her soul? How can I help her? Why would I just be slapped in the face and broken covenanted and broken trusted, and now I need the church to cry with me? I know we are not used to this language, but you don't just judge what I'm saying quick. You think on it a little. Because we're making ourselves victims and people villains, and now we're no stronger than the weakness around us, and yet we all sing Christ is in us. We just so relate to emotions that we don't want to give them up. Because they've been misdefined through the fall. The emotions that we've experienced our whole life are very self-centered and catered to ourselves. It shouldn't be so easy to cry for yourself. It should be easy to cry for people in trouble. See, because I know this man whose wife left him, and it was a bad scene, and I bawled, and I couldn't compel her, and she was mesmerized, and she left and got on a plane and went to sleep with a man she met on the internet and had 2 little kids she left behind, and he cried and yelled and screamed to God in the bedroom for 5 days. How could you let this happen, God? Why don't you bring her back? God, help me. God, this can't be happening. Where are you? Freaking out, screaming like a madman for 5 days. God let him scream for 5 days. Came in the bedroom and said, hey, would you stop praying that way? You don't have a problem. You say, well, God's pretty insensitive. He's in denial. He said the veins just about blew out of his neck. He said he has never yelled at anyone in his life like he yelled at God. He screamed at the ceiling, is this a joke to you? What do you mean I don't have a problem? What? I don't have a problem? Are you kidding me? My wife is in the arms of another man. I'm holding divorce papers. My kids don't even have a mother, and I don't have a problem. See the rationale? See what fuels our emotions? It's called natural wisdom, to where all of a sudden the clay can scream at the potter as if the clay is right and the potter's presumptuous. All of a sudden our intellect has risen above the truth. All of a sudden you have the right to be mad at God and judge God and yell at God. Why? Because human reasoning has rung up Lord above the Word. Come on, bear with me. He's screaming at God. What do you mean I don't have a... He said the veins, but he just laid it all out. Would have made a good talk show. We'd have sided with him. We'd have been mad at God too. Because he's hurt. His wife did him wrong. And I agree. It's a terrible thing. It's not fun. I wish it wouldn't happen. I'm not making light of it. It's a terrible thing. He screamed at God and the veins were blowing in his neck. He said he's never yelled so loud at anyone, let alone the Lord. He said the Lord didn't even budge. He stayed calm and casual and said, it's exactly what I said. You don't have a problem. After he screamed at God, you don't have a problem. Your wife is in trouble. Why is it so easy these 5 days to cry for yourself and only think for you when you say my heart and my spirit is inside of you? Why can all you think about is what she did to you instead of what she's doing and the trouble she's in? Why haven't you cried 1 minute for your wife? Why can you only think for you? And he fell to the floor bawling. That's pastoral right there. You go, Lord. He come running in my office crying out of control. I thought, oh no, here we go, because I need to pastor him. I'm not going to, I'll cry with him for 20 seconds, but I am not going to get... And he comes in and says, don't worry, Pastor. I'm not crying for why you think. I've heard the Lord. I said, what'd he say? And he told me that story. And I bawled with him and said, you've heard the Lord. And he went on and lived strong. And I'm not saying it was fun for him every moment. And I'm not saying he didn't miss her at times. But I'll tell you what, he didn't let what she did dictate his destiny. Amen. Years later, she came back in town. He went to her and said, I love you. She wasn't with the man. And he said, I love you, and I believe I'm your husband, and I've never not been your husband in my heart. And I'd like to get back together with you. And she said, are you kidding? After all I've done and put you through and where I've been, you were deceived. You were in trouble. It's not who you are. I'd love you to come home and be a mama and be a wife. And she came home and they got remarried. And as soon as they got remarried, she found out she was pregnant, but it was way too soon to be his. Here it was a man that she was with after the man she left for didn't work out. You see how insecure you get and you just bounce from arms to arms? He said, it's okay. We'll raise the baby up. You're one with me. We'll treat it as ours. It's family. You think he came a long way from his 5-day little fuming thing? I'll tell you what, God walks in your bedroom and tells you you don't have a problem and asks you personally face to face why you can only think for you. It'll change you too. You might not have the revelation just hearing me preach it. You let God in His majesty and love walk in your room and talk to you like that, your eyes will open. I'm serious. Be real with me. Every one of us can relate to what he was saying. But I'll tell you what, when I tell you what God said to him, we can relate as well. And it's almost stark and sobering. Because most of us know we'd have cried for ourselves. Some of us in this room have already cried for ourselves. And what God's saying is, hey, why don't you change your tears? You're not in trouble. Nothing's changed with you and me. You're sealed. You're eternal. You're everlasting. Why are you letting one decision rock your future? You think I'm downplaying it, and I'm not. Truth is powerful. I had a therapist person write me one time, and they think I'm throwing this stuff around too loosely, and I'm in denial, and I'm not giving people a chance to be real. No, I don't want you to be flesh. Because if I let you be real, what she's saying is face the reality of your feelings. They're perverted feelings. They're not coming from the wellspring of truth. They're coming from self-centered thinking. So why don't we cut it at the core so we can think different, huh? Wouldn't it be awesome to go home if you were ever in that situation and not break and actually feel compassion? Wouldn't it be awesome to not get bitter and feel yucky and actually cry in a true pain for the person? Wouldn't it be amazing to have a best friend and their spouse cheated on your best friend and you can't even get mad at them because they hurt your best friend and all you can do is hurt for them because they must be lost and insecure and you just cry yourself to sleep praying for them because you just want God to reach out and love them in their pain? Wouldn't that be more free? Yes. I betcha. You'll see it right here. Uncleanness, passion, evil desire. We're going to put it off. Covetousness, idolatry. It's all idolatry. Wow. Watch. Fornication, uncleanness, passion, evil desire, covetousness. It's idolatry. That means it's putting something above knowing Him and loving Him and being His love. So fornication can't be your created value. It's not some temptation you're supposed to monitor. Hello? It's a perversion of identity. It's idolatry. Come on, it's in your Bible. Because of these things, the wrath of God is coming upon the sons of disobedience in which you yourselves once walked when you lived in them. But now, you yourselves, who? Who's supposed to do this? You yourselves. Now, I'm going to help you with this. Watch this. It's not going to be heavy. You yourselves. You already put to death your members which are on the earth. You yourselves. It's not some mystical thing. It's not just some supernatural deliverance. You're supposed to take authority over this and get a right understanding and realize I wasn't created for this. It's like me kneeling in my room saying, God, my definition of manhood is perverted. You couldn't have made me this way. I didn't tell you what I said. There's these young folks in here, but I said, God, Adam wasn't walking in the garden with an erection saying, what do I do with this thing? So you made a woman. That's what I said to the Lord the first day I was saved. Makes sense. He's walking around. What am I supposed to do with this, Lord? Hey, let me take care of your problem. Boom, woman. That is not why He made a woman. It's grates on me that we even think that. But now you yourselves are to put off these things. Did He say manage or put off? What are you putting off? Anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy language out of your mouth. Don't lie to one another. Why wouldn't you lie to one another? Because you put off the old deeds, the old man with his deeds. When you lie, it's self-serving. There's some reason you're lying. It's self-protection, self-defense, something. Why aren't you going to lie? It's not because it's not the Christian thing to do. It's because you put off the old man. Why aren't you going to speak with filthy language? Because it's not in you anymore. You put it off. Why aren't you angry? Because it's not about me. It's about love. So anger doesn't even have a landing strip. I'm not even tempted. Even though I'm very passionate, You see how passionate I get? I'm very passionate, but it's not a self-serving passion. I've pleaded for people. I yelled at a man on the phone and hung up on him one time. It was for him, because he was in the arms of another woman calling me from her house, telling me it was the Lord. And some you snatch out of the fire, and some you save with compassion. And he said, my wife and her husband forsook us for so long. God has put us together to heal. He spiritualized his adultery and said God had supernaturally arranged this and met them together and put them together so they could lick each other's wounds and heal themselves from the forsakenness of their spouses. I'm the wrong person to tell that to. And I preached scriptures to him over the phone that I didn't even know were in my spirit. They came out of me like a machine gun. And I talked to him about being a cloud without water and a spot in our love feast, and I let him have it, man, and I slammed the phone on him. And when I slammed the phone, he knew me. He was a friend. He prayed with me, interceded with me, and now he's in the arms of a woman. I pastored for years with him, and he said, when I acted that way and talked that way and slammed the phone, it so shook him, it was like somebody ripped the veil off of his eyes. And he thought, man, if Dan reacted like this, I've never seen Dan like this in my life. I must be lost. And it's like he came to his senses, and he said he instantly felt like he was sitting in hell itself. I was under my desk in a fetal position crying, thinking that I lost it and I sinned. And I was just thinking that I made a bad mistake, screaming at him, and I took it so serious. I was under my desk crying, shaking, saying, God, help me. I need your mercy. I don't know what to do. I'm overwhelmed in this situation. The whole time I'm under my desk crying. It's pitiful. I'm under my desk because I care. I have no need to yell at him. But man, I couldn't stop it. One of our secretaries was in the other room. She heard me, and she's on her way out, and she kind of ran out. I had to call her and make sure she was okay. You know what she said? It's good to have a good testimony and a good name. It's more treasured than gold and silver. She said, you know, I heard you talking, and I never heard you talk like that to a person ever. And I thought in my mind, knowing Dan and his heart and his love, this must be serious. He's trying to rescue someone. And I believed the best, and I drove home praying for the situation. I cried and said, thank you for believing the best. And I told her it was real serious. And I said, I was really concerned. I was under my desk crying, thinking I was falling apart. My phone's above my desk ringing, and the Lord said, get the phone. Get out of this place. Why are you, it's like, why are you in this? You know, Elisha, what are you doing here? So I get out and I'm, hello? You know, and I said the name of the church. He's bawling. You can't even hear, you can't even hardly make him out. He's just bawling. It's the guy. And he said, help me. I'm in hell. I'm in hell. Help me. I don't know what to do. I said, the same thing come back on me. I'll tell you what you do. You listen, and you listen close. You get your things, pack your things, load your car, and get home. Do you hear me? Get home now. Click. Called his wife. I said, he'll be home in about 11 hours. If he drives fast, it'll be a little sooner, but he'll be home. She said, how you know? I said, he'll be home. I said, please call me when he comes home. Guess what she did? Called me about 5 hours later. You know why I wanted to call me when she got home, when he got home? Because I knew she was hurt, and she felt like she forsook him, and she felt guilty for him leaving, and she bought into his rap. She justified his sin and thought, you know what, I haven't paid him enough attention, and I knew she'd jump in bed with him as soon as he walked in the door to try to make up for lost time and show him that she really can be a wife sexually. And it's the last thing he needed her to do, because it'll keep that lie alive in him, and he'll just use her for that. And I'm a good pastor, I promise you. I'm aware of these things. And I said, don't you not call me as soon as he pulls in the driveway. She said, okay. I said, I'm serious. As soon as he pulls up, call me. Called me 5 hours later. Did he just get home now? Well, we've been home. He's been here a while. And she's a little shaky in her voice. I come over and I'm sitting. I said, the reason I wanted you to call me right away, I was concerned that when you got home, you'd be feeling guilty and you'd be feeling expectant and you'd just jump in bed together. And she went, ah! And she had been just sitting there feeling dirty the whole time. Emotions, living out of your emotions. She's sitting there feeling dirty the whole time because she knew it wasn't her answer. She knew they needed help. Sleeping with him wasn't healing anything. He sat there arrogant and was like, what? Well, what's wrong with her sleeping with me? Why is she crying? There's nothing wrong for her to sleep with me. I said, you knock it off. And you should have seen how I talked to him. You've never seen me handle a human being like I handled that one. And it's not because I'm mad at him. I'm trying to rescue him out of delusion. Are you guys following me? See, we think love is a mushy-cushy thing. You can tell I'm not mushy-cushy. I'm qualified to speak strong if I have to, if my motive's pure. That's where authority is, and that's where grace is. If I just have a need to set you straight, I'm probably on my own, and the best that it can be, it'll be. But if I'm coming at you because of love and your value and your sake. And even if I'm talking to you strong, heaven's with me, I promise. And grace will speak. You get it? So what are you going to do? You're going to put off. How do I put off anger without biting my lip and getting trapped into works? How do I put off anger and not turn it into a New Year's resolution and say, okay, I'm not supposed to get angry, I'm not going to get angry anymore. And then I try to live and not get angry, and every time I feel anger coming on, I feel like I'm failing and I feel like I'm a sinner. Right? How do you put off fornication and evil desire and passion? How do you put it off without biting your lip and trying not to feel that way or think that way? It's a good question, isn't it? Because that's what we do. We try harder, and then we feel like we're failing. And then we feel like there's no hope for us, and then we give up trying because we feel like we can't. Who's ever been in that arena? That's a bad circle. Here's how you put off anger. Here's how you put off fornication and things. It's in your prayer and communion with Jesus. And you're in your bedroom alone, you're in your car, you're in the shower. God's okay if you're in the shower. You're in the shower. I hear from God in the shower all the time. It's amazing. He's not ashamed, and neither am I. You're just awesome. You could be sitting on the potty and just commune with God. Doesn't matter. But wherever you're alone is where you're with Him. You follow me? So watch this. When you're alone, and I'm wrapping up, I know I'm way, way late. I'm just late. It's like, well, we don't have a service this evening. You got the rest of the night, man. You can just chew on this or pray for me. Whatever. Say, help him, Lord. But you're in your bedroom, you're all alone, wherever that's, you're taking a walk in the park, down the sidewalk, and your heart's active to God. And here's what you're doing. Father, this is amazing. You never made me to live for myself. Man, the way I was trained, the way I was fashioned by life is a lie. It's a lie. God, stress and strife and self-consciousness and despair and discouragement, man, it's all self-conscious. And God, I thank you. I put it all off. You didn't make me this way. I became this way when Adam ate the tree. But you hung on a tree and took this thing away from me. I'm a brand new creature. God, I put on the new. I'm telling you, I believe with all my heart. You didn't make me to live for my flesh. You made me to live by my spirit. And I'm a tree, the planting of the Lord. I'm righteous in your sight. And God, I thank you. Your fruit is abundant on me. People that are hungry and desolate and empty can feed of me and be satisfied because Christ, you are in me. That's how you pray. That's how you talk. You don't have to quote all that. That's just me. That's just how I convey. But what's real to you is how you convey. Lord, I just put off anger right now. I realize you never made me to be angry. When I'm angry, it's just a need to be right. It's just trying to get my way. It's usually at the expense of someone or the value of someone. God, it is not the way of my life anymore. You're the way of my life. You're making me love. I put it off and I put on love. And I thank you that you have made me for your image and you've put your spirit in me and your nature in me. And God, it is an easy thing to see the world through truth. Holy Spirit, thank you. You're making it real in me and you're causing my eyes to agree. If you're sincere talking like that to Jesus, your whole world is changing. I promise you. You won't have to try not to get frustrated. You just won't get frustrated in the way you used to. If you get passionate, I'm very passionate. Man, I was board of elders. You should have seen us sometimes for the sake of the kingdom, but it wasn't at the cost of one another's identity and value. There was a guy trying to bring some ministry in that was just off the wall, and he was play acting something, and he was acting a certain way. It was all deception. It was terrible. And I exposed it. The Lord said, don't you feed into that. He's faking. And I was like, what? And I was like, hey, stop. And then he admitted he was. And it was just weird. And then these other guys were like in the room, and they were like, well, you know. I'm like, stop. Do you guys see what's going on and what you just had the capacity to come in here and do? This is serious. And I need you to think about it, and we need to right now talk about it. And I said, come on, we're men of God here. We're not soft-pedaling this. So, I mean, we addressed it, you know what I mean? And we prayed, and this guy had to come to a place of repentance, of course, but we had to position him for that. But we didn't just soft-pedal it. I wasn't mad at him. I didn't want him to think it's cool to live that way and live that way again. I didn't want him to take that into another church or another church. Man, his life's hanging in the balance in that moment. You talk to him straight. You got to snatch sometimes out of the fire. Doesn't mean we're never correcting and adjusting. It's that we're doing it from the right place. I have to do it for your sake if it's anointed. Okay? So you yourselves are going to put these things off. Don't lie to one another. Why? You've put off the old man and his deeds. Now look at verse 10. Look what you've done. As you're putting off, guess what you're doing? Putting on. Guess who you're putting on? See where I get this stuff? It's in the book. You're putting on the new man who is renewed in knowledge. What knowledge? Knowledge according to the image of him Who created him? So I bet you Jesus died to restore you back to the image of God. And I bet you didn't pray a prayer to go to heaven. You prayed a prayer to get free from the old man so you could put on the new who's according to Christ. I bet it's the gospel, and I bet it's not what we've really preached. And I bet we've let the way that seems right to a man without realizing it stay alive in the midst of the kingdom. And it's produced less fruit than's possible. You don't have to go up and down. You don't have to live okay and then not okay. You can go with this thing, man. Because you are going to put on the new. It's a place of prayer, guys. It's a place of communion and union. If you'd have heard me praying when I first got saved, some pastors would have tried to talk me out of it and say, now, brother, you're in denial. You got to face reality. You're going to have your moments. Well, that's why they have their moments. They have a platform for them. People are afraid to talk about freedom from sin, so they say, well, we're always going to sin. And then when they do, that's just what they are, so they stay in the identity of sinners. And they fail to walk in the grace that might allow them to walk holy longer than they thought was possible. And if it's possible for this long, it might be possible for this long. And next thing you know, we think it's heresy because we're talking about it maybe even being this long because somehow we have the idea we're sinning while we're breathing. And I tell you, if you're sinning while you're breathing, get born again. And get right understanding. Come on. Who are you putting on? The new man. Who is he? He's renewed in knowledge according to the image. So if I don't look at the life of Jesus, who's the revelation of the Father, and I don't study the Father and Jesus, who is love, I don't even know what I'm renewed in. I'm just trying to be a good Christian. That's why I've talked about Jesus so much this weekend. That's why I've brought you into his life and breaking of bread and coming back from the dead and tell my brethren. You know one of the best places in the whole book is Peter preaching on the day of Pentecost. And at the end, it gets real juicy, man. He says, whom you crucified. You killed him. He was the Prince of Life. He's the Son of God, who God raised from the dead. Jesus, he said, you killed him. And it says that they were cut to the heart. And for the first time, humanity was out of denial and deception and saw that they were guilty of the death of the Son of God. Holy Spirit caused them to see they were deceived and they crucified their Messiah. That's a pretty emotional moment. You look up cut to the heart and in their culture and put it together. They were pulling their hair, tearing their clothes, and throwing dirt in the air. They were screaming. It was an emotional chaos. Because in a moment, they realized, they saw themselves going, Barabbas, Barabbas. They pictured Jesus. And then they saw him hanging there and knew that they had turned him over and killed their Savior. For the first time, Holy Spirit took back the veil of that deception and left them see that they were guilty of his death. It says it right in your Bible. And you know what they said? Men and brethren, what should we... They cried out in despair, because what do you do? That's not shoplifting. That's not even car theft. Killing the Son of God, guilty of his death, judging him to death, yelling out Barabbas, crucify him. People in that crowd could picture themselves, crucify him, crucify him. And they're guilty. It's a hopeless plea, because how do you make up for that? How do you peel enough potatoes? What do you do? How do you spend enough time in jail? You killed God himself. He said, men and brethren, what shall we do? And guess what Peter said by inspiration of the Spirit? Repent. Wish you didn't kill him. You'll never be judged as the ones that did. And come on into the family and you can be sons too. Wait a minute, what? Yeah, mercy triumphs over judgment. Now that you see what you've done, you'd never do it again. You're not the people that did it. You've been changed in a moment. In the conviction and light of Holy Spirit, you've just been changed. So I'll tell you what, just wish like you wish now that you'd never done it. You'll never be judged for the ones that did. Come on in, we'll let you into the house. You can be sons still. Here, be filled with the same Spirit that raised him from the dead. Whew. Holy Ghost comes on him. It's the most ridiculous, incredible expression of mercy in the whole Bible. They're standing there guilty of the death of the Son of God, crying out, what should we do? And Peter says, wish you didn't kill him and you'll never be judged as if you did. And come on into the house, you can be sons. Wait a minute, we killed your son and now you're going to make us sons? Yeah, because you have learned such a lesson in this moment of revelation that if you could go back and do it again, you would never kill him, you would embrace him. So why don't you come home and be part of the family? That's ridiculous. You know what the world says? Well, I don't know how I can trust you now. I mean, you're crying, but you might just be sorry for yourself because I gave you time and time again. I mean, I healed a bunch of people. I gave you opportunities. I mean, I'm standing there beaten and I'm bloody and Pilate's there and all these Pharisees. You listen to them way before you listen to me and you did judge me. How do I know I can even trust you? How do I know you won't turn on me down the road? I don't know. You had a real opportunity to know me back then. I don't know if I even care about the way you feel right now because you really put me through hell and you hurt me. I mean, I paid a heavy price for your deception. Could you imagine Jesus talking like that? Why do we talk like that to each other? I'm really on it, ain't I? You guys, are you getting stretched? Is this all right? Are you guys hearing what I'm saying? Come on, everything that I'm telling you, I'm backing with so much scripture, it's ridiculous. It's all through the Word, this kind of stuff. And you can find love through the life of Jesus big time. And you can see it get crushed the way you and I have been trained to think, feel, and talk. Just that hurting and feeling sorry for yourself. That is so non-scriptural. It is so not kingdom. The Bible says, consider him who endured such hostility against himself from sinners, lest you be weary and discouraged in your soul. What he's saying is, stop thinking for yourself or you're going to be wore out. Follow Jesus. He received injustice and he never changed. Now you follow him. You're following him, not to follow man. Come on. You're following him, not your friends. You're following him. You get it? Come on, it's all over, man. I could throw some more scripture at you. I know you believe me at this point. Therefore, verse 12, and this is where we're done. We really are. Whew. I only used 3 of my 6 hours, so I'm only halfway through. Therefore, as the elect of God, guess what you are? Hand-picked, hand-chosen, the elect of God. You, friend, yes, every one of you. You're the choice of heaven. You wouldn't even have a desire for God if he didn't touch your heart. If he didn't draw you near. You'd be lost and blind and like a brute beast. You'd walk into destruction by instinct. Read your Bible. You wouldn't even be here today if God's grace wouldn't whisper to your heart in some way. You could say, well, I'm not even saved. I just came to check it out. The only reason you considered it is because God's breathing on your heart. Because he wants you. The only reason a man would second guess is because God's going, hey. Psst, 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 psst. Did you get it? It's so intimate. Therefore, as the elect of God, is it up there behind me? Yep. Watch this. Holy, beloved. Guess what you're putting on? Tender mercies, kindness, humility, meekness, long-suffering, bearing with one another, and forgiving one another. Stay with me. If anyone has a complaint against another, even as Christ forgave you, you also do. It doesn't even mean that you don't ever address the complaint or just ignore the situation. He's not talking about pushover life. He's talking about keeping your heart in a beautiful, pure place of love so you have authority to even address things. You follow me? It doesn't mean you're just like, oh, whatever. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about keeping your heart in this place. Now watch. Even as Christ forgave you, you must also what? Do. I have under my Bible, becoming love, exclamation point, following Jesus with an arrow. Verse 14. But above all these things, what are we going to do? Put on love. It's the bond of what? Isn't that amazing? You see my pursuit? Do you see your calling and pursuit? My pursuit is to be one with him. To know his love like he loves. To become his love like he is loved. So that the world can see who he is. So I can pick up Billy and not feel taxed. Not feel ministerial. So I can just pick up Billy because he's a human being and he needs somebody for a minute. And so Billy can see that and be so by it that it could break years in an hour and a half, tear away years of hardness and deception, to where he can't even get out of my truck. He says, you know, I think I can say, I love you. Why? Because he saw first love. And it so wrecked him and it so dismantled him that his heart was instinctively created to respond in the same. Now that was just a seed in Billy. You say he might have got drunk that night. He might. I don't know. I was just passing through. But he told me the kingdom of God is if a man scatters seeds, so I'm going to scatter.
Amen.
I'm going to sow seeds. You say, we shouldn't have poured into him. You can't even follow up with him. Stop that religious craziness. Jesus passed through villages and cities and preached the gospel in every town and every village and just kept moving. You got to sow seeds somewhere. Let's stop limiting our potential. I'm telling you, we've listened to the devil on some of this stuff. Above all these things, put on what? What are you called to be, guys? Come on, in all this time I've talked to you, I've gave you a real clear picture of what it looks like because we've looked at Jesus really close. I don't know about you, but I'm just speaking for me right now. I'm sincere about this. I don't want to just sing to Him and pray to Him when I'm in trouble. I want to follow Him. And if He told me to follow Him and I decide to, I bet you grace will meet me there. And I bet you if I get alone when you're not looking and I ask Holy Spirit to teach me love and fashion me in love and I'm willing to love and I realize and acknowledge you didn't make me for me. You put metal in a microwave, you'll destroy the conventional microwave. You will break the product because it wasn't made for metal. Read the manufacturer's handbook. It wasn't made for it. Did you ever put something in there with foil on or put a plate in there with a fork in under the food? I did. Did you ever do it? You hit the button quick to stop it. Because it's serious. It whoa! Why does it do that? Wasn't made for metal. You read the manufacturer's handbook. You live for yourself, you'll destroy the product. Because you weren't made for you. And if any man come after me, let him first deny himself. Second, pick up his cross and follow me. You'll never pick up your cross if you don't deny yourself. Picking up your cross is taxing through everything of life without letting anything change you but Him. Deny yourself. You were never made for you. You were made for His image. We're renewed in knowledge. We're renewed in knowledge according to the image of Him who created Him. You guys get this? So we're going to pray, and then I'm just going to do one more thing quick if you'll let me, and we'll just pray for some folks. But can we just pray quick? And I don't mean quick in a way of just rhetorical religion. I don't function that way. I don't believe there's any of that in me. If there is, I would need Jesus to show me that. Because when I say quick, I'll pray sincere, and I believe there's a lot of grace on what we're doing. Amen? So, Father, I just thank You for these words. I thank You for the inspiration. I thank You for illustrations, stories, analogies, and most of all, Jesus, I thank You for Your living example. Lord Jesus, I'm asking You to raise us up as living examples. I'm asking You to make us Corinthians 2 people where You diffuse the fragrance of Your knowledge everywhere through our lives. Because You've caused us to triumph in all things because we see clear. So Lord, I pray for strength in the heart and the soul of every person in this place. I pray that they have a grace to stand up and run well from this point forward. I pray that there's no one here that could stay beaten down. There's no one here that could talk themselves into something less than truth. I pray that the Word would overtake us, would overcome us. That even if there's one inside their heart wrestling right now, that You yourself would come and win because of Your great love for the individual. So Lord, I pray for a great grace to come upon every heart and soul. I pray, Lord God, that You bring great increase to every one of us. That You manifest us as the body of love, the people of Christ, that You begin to influence this region and this area and invade this culture with the new and living way. And I'm asking You, Holy Spirit, to do it right now in this house. Come and grant these leaders and these pastors, Dave and Mickey, with even greater understanding and greater revelation. Thank you for grooming their hearts. Thank you for showing them your love, your kingdom, your gospel, helping them to understand the truth. And I pray, God, that it would increase more and more. I pray, God, that you'd give them increased vision and wisdom and insight into these things. And God, I thank you that they enjoy watching the manifestation of your heart and your love and your kingdom in the people around them that they love so much. God, I thank you, even as they have enjoyed family in this house, let it spread beyond this house and let it touch these neighborhoods, God. Let it touch these areas, God, around us. Lord, I thank you. We're not just here having family. I thank you, God, we're coming to be empowered to go. I thank you there's a great marriage between coming and going. I thank you, God, because we come, we leave looking more like you. I thank you, Lord, we love to come, but man, we rejoice in the going. And we just thank you that life is a gift and life is fun. I thank you, God, you take the heavy out of it. You take the lies out of it. And you cause our eyes to see the beauty and the gift of every day. Father, thank you for it. And God, I ask you to continue to remind us that if we're thinking anything that's not building us up and firing us up, it can't be the Lord. You are so life-giving. You speak encouragement. You don't plane us out, and you surely don't gray us out. So keep our hearts in that place. I bless your name. Thank you, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen? Amen. Amen. You guys all right? I mean, that was a long session, man. You guys all right? Okay. We prayed for some people that were sick the other night, and we just did a little bit, and we just went around, shared a few testimonies and stuff, but I just want to do that again. I want to just keep touching some things, and I want to pray. This young lady we prayed for, she said, we prayed for her for diabetes, and she was in Klamath Falls, and it was a while back. It was over a year ago. Yeah, it was a year and 2 months ago. And she said she felt a little better for a while, and then it kind of drifted back to the way it was, and she said she had an unusual experience today and the way her numbers were, and we're just going to continue in faith. And what I told this young lady, I said, listen, there's so many questions that try to rise up when we don't see healing or we aren't healed. And sometimes we can get frustrated or what am I doing wrong? I encourage you to stay a million miles away from that thinking. Here's the deal. We know what truth looks like. We know what Jesus' life has taught us. Let's grow into it. Let's push away the questions, and let's let the answer bring the fruit. So you can't let the sickness identify you, even though it's costing you in some ways. I understand it's costing you in some ways, but you have to keep your heart before the Lord and let everything that works work through love. Faith works through love. Faith doesn't work through need. Faith works through love. So as soon as you start questioning, love gets in question, and then faith isn't the spontaneous result. It's just a needs-driven heart cry. A lot of what we do is a needs-driven heart cry in the church. We just pray because we smell trouble. Come on, I'm being real. You got a little symptom in your body, and you get on the web medic or something. The web doctor. And you just type your little symptom in. If you're feeling this way, click here. If you're feeling this way, click here. If you're feeling this way. And you got yourself half dead. And then you call somebody for prayer because you're half dead. And you're scared, afraid that this might be you. And I'm telling you, you need to rebound before you even go to prayer. You say, whoa, God, what was I thinking? Listen, as soon as you get the symptom, I'm saying it's wrong not to do something about it or check something out or try to help something with that, but don't lose heart and don't identify through the symptom. What did I do wrong? Why just go, I don't need this now, not now, whoa, wait, wow. Come on. As soon as that thing tries to speak to you and bite you in any way, Father, I thank you, you love me. And you affirm love. And you stand in the place of love and let faith flow through love. Faith is the spontaneous result of knowing Him. We're not trying to have faith. He came and loved us. And faith is the spontaneous result. When you say, I'm trying to have faith, you're just proving you don't. You're striving. How are you going to try to have faith when faith works through love and faith is the spontaneous result of knowing Him? Faith comes when the will of God is known. You're not trying to have faith, you see Him clear. It's a simple flow through relationship. The only other thing you'll do if you don't have what I'm talking about is you'll turn this book into principles you're applying for help. It's abracadabra then. Jesus' name is abracadabra. You're trying to find a rabbit in a hat. And if you quote this scripture, and this scripture, you're supposed to be healed. And you say, well, that's my covenant rights. I reminded the Lord. Why isn't He healing me? I'm frustrated. What am I doing wrong? I quoted all these scriptures. It has nothing to do with faith and healing and relationship with Jesus the way we teach that. That's why there's so much frustration, confusion, and trauma in the church in this topic. I'm telling you. So what we're going to do is something real simple, okay? We're just going to pray for anybody that has sickness. I won't take a whole long time with it, but I want you to do one thing. After we pray for you, this church understands healing. You guys see a lot of healing, but yet there's still people we're believing for, true? There's still people that even come here that could use a touch of God, true? And we want to touch you, and don't grow weary in well-doing. Don't say, well, I was prayed for 100 times. Well, I don't like to keep being exploited. I don't like to keep... No, it's right to just let people love on you and pray. It's okay to receive. But here's the deal. You have one option in your life, ever, is you thank God and you stay fixed to His love for you, come hell or high water. When I told you about my mother yesterday, some people said how they really appreciate that because they had loved ones in some similar situations. Man, my mother knew one thing, and she wasn't subverting healing and saying, oh, well, I'll be healed someday. She just knew she was saved, and she knew she loved God, and she knew that His blood washed her of sins, and she knew she had everlasting life. And she camped on that, and that's what made her a beautiful person. And she never saw her body healed, but she never changed a wink because she lived from the place she knew. Amen. So as terrible as MS was, it never identified her life, and it never manifested through her. Meaning her. Yes. Even though it ravaged her body. And that's the shell, huh? All of a sudden she's not in her body anymore. She's with Jesus and has an amazing legacy and resume. Because she never let that thing change the truth. I didn't tell you this yesterday, but there were doctors at her graveside and nursing staff. My mother, who was a shut-in for about 15 years, when I pulled up to the cemetery to do her graveside, it was double parked the whole way to the top, right to her grave. And I just cried because I couldn't even imagine who all those people could possibly be. How does that many people even know my mom? And I just cried. And I got up there and there's nursing staff. The head doctor of the York City Hospital's director of doctors took the time to stand at her graveside because she was one of those extraordinary, rare people to him. The nurses were there because they thought she was just one of those special once-in-a-lifetime people. And I got to stand and do her graveside and give tribute to her life and lift up my voice and tell them why she was that way. And they're just standing there. The head doctor came to me and hugged and said, I'm so glad you've taught me so much and gave me so much to think about. I'm so glad I came here to honor your mother. I just thought she was one of them rare breed individuals, but now I see what really made her tick. You gave me so much to think about. I got straight with it, man. I talked about her never complaining with MS. I said, come on, guys. You complain if your car's not starting right. You complain if your cell phone battery's a little dead. You complain if we've learned to complain. We've made it all about us. And then our disposition isn't exemplary and it's not attractive to our graveside. That's how I preached at my mother's funeral, man. It was deep. I was like, I didn't even know how to cry when my mom died. I just rejoiced in the blood of Jesus. And if it wasn't for the blood of Jesus, man, we'd be lost, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. But man, I'm not writing it off and saying, oh, well, so she wasn't healed. And, you know, sometimes God just heals in heaven. I don't preach that stuff. You go for the manifestation. You go for the healing, but you don't lose character and disposition in the midst. When was that ever up for sale? People say, well, you know, they didn't get healed, but at least they really kept their character. Well, when was that ever up for grabs? When were you ever called to lose your character? People say some of the greatest things of sickness is people just living in it by grace and going through the sickness in grace and da-da-da. I'm thinking, what are we teaching? When were you ever called to be angry, mean, and complaining and frustrated about your life and mad at God? Just because people do that doesn't mean it's truth. So my mother had an amazing testimony. And you know what it did? It surrounded her graveside with people in honor. They came to honor a woman that they didn't totally understand. They just thought she was special. Well, she was. They thought she was a rare breed. Well, she was a peculiar people. It was the power of what she believed. And I got to blow a trumpet on her funeral day as her son. It was fun. So I want to pray for the sick, and we'll just do it quickly. You guys know this. Pastor teaches you well. If you're visiting, just honor what I'm saying. I want you involved. When you pray for the sick today, just simple command form. Be healed in Jesus' name. Ask them what's wrong. And just be healed in Jesus' name. If they have a herniated disc, you be healed. Pain, you leave. The authority. Knees, you be restored. Cartilage, you be right now. Complete, normal cartilage. Man, we prayed for a lady not long ago. She's walking like this. We prayed. This lady's going up and down steps. I mean, she is bone on bone on bone. And God just went and put cartilage in there. It's fascinating. We breathed into dirt and a man stood up. At least we say we believe that. I mean, we read that one time in our Bible, huh? He breathed into dirt. God of the universe. And a human being stood up out of the dust. That's mind-boggling. One breath. I was sitting beside a man on the airplane. He's a scientist, and he was advocating God, and he was kind of mocking evolution a little bit. He said, I'm a scientist, man. He said, evolution, are you kidding me? Did you ever study an eyeball? Just an eyeball. He said, you tell me an eyeball evolved. He's a scientist. He's like, eyeball evolved? Sorry. He said, God made that thing. But guess what he made it with? A breath. I don't believe he took a big inhale and blew hard. If he did, I'm still very impressed. But I don't think he said, okay, now this is going, I got to dig deep. He just, and a human being stood to their feet. Hello, Dad. That's fascinating. Do you good to believe that. So if you're sick in this house, and even if you were prayed for the other night, especially if you, I did a couple things the other night. I said, if you felt like you got a little better, we prayed for you again and just believed for increase. If you felt like nothing changed, we released you in the prayer of faith and didn't turn it into a point in time like, well, maybe next time. To where you leave here, I wonder why they got healed and I didn't get healed. No, you leave and you say, God, it's amazing. You're healing people. When she testified, I could tell that really happened. Man, when the tears flowed out, that was awesome. God, you took her pain right away. You are a healing God and you're doing a work in me. Thank you for what you've done through Jesus, and thank you for the redemption of my body as well. God, I rejoice in your love for all of us. I rejoice in your love for me. That's how you live by faith. And then you walk out of here and you still have that symptom. And that sure beats, wonder why I didn't get healed. I wonder what I'm doing wrong. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, we prayed all the right stuff. I mean, maybe it was something wrong with the people that prayed with me. Maybe they had hidden sin or something. I don't know. And the list just never ends. Next thing you know, we're writing manuals in the church, 30 reasons why men aren't healed. Because we're trying to explain away our frustration, but Jesus didn't have the manual in his back pocket. And as soon as you receive that manual and just one thing on that list, you put a ceiling over the release of the kingdom of God in your life. You guys following me? If you're sick in this place in any way, please participate with us right now and give us the honor of loving you for about 3 minutes, 4 minutes. And I'm not going to milk this out and take long with it. I just want to touch you. It's right to pray for the sick. Randy Clark said something cool one time. He said, guys, we debate, we talk, we hash so much over this. I'm just convinced the more people we get our hands on and pray for, the more testimonies we'll see. Let's just pray for the sick. And I'm like, go, Randy, that's awesome. Because we spend hours at a lunch table deciding why and why not, and then in the process we're not even praying for anybody because we're not even encouraged because we're too busy debating. I love Norval Hayes. He's an older fella. He's still going, ain't he? Isn't he still around? I think he is. He's an old boy. Did you ever read one of his little mini books? It's so funny. It's big black letters like Sally and Jane stuff or Dick and Sally. It's like, are you a believer? Question mark. Turn the page. Are you sure? Do you lay your hands on the sick? Why not? I guess you don't believe. Because these signs follow those that believe. They lay their hands on the sick. That's so convicting. And the problem is you're so busy debating about healing that you pulled your hand back from the first step. And you don't even release the faith for the healing because you're so busy talking about the healing, you pull your hand back and prove you don't know what to believe. And Norval was on it in that little book. I read that after I first got saved. I thought, this dude is an author, man. So that's my kind of book. Sally books. What were they?
Dick and Jane.
Dick and Jane, not Sally. Dick and Jane. Are you sure? Pennsylvania might have had Sally. Was it Dick and Jane?
It was on the West Coast.
Sally's a little
There is a Sally, isn't it? Come on, man. Thank you. I knew there was a Sally in there. People are like, ain't no Sally. I'm thinking, Sally was in there. And Spot. I was even going to say, is there a Sally and Spot? But when you said Dick and Jane, I thought, well, then there's a Sally and Spot or something. But they're all together. But those books were so simple. And guess what those books did? They taught almost all of us to read. Because they were simple. And it was the tool all of us are familiar with, and they worked. So are you a believer? Really? Do you lay hands on the sick? So today we're going to give you a chance to believe. So if you're sick in this house, in all sincerity and all seriousness, I want you to stand to your feet, please. If you're sick in this house with any symptom, any trace of anything, if you're on meds for stuff, arthritis, anything, even if you were prayed for last night, stand to your feet and give us the honor of loving you. Now let me encourage this, and I know pastors are sitting right here. You don't have to wait till the end of the service to pray for the sick. We can just live our lives praying for the sick, but you just don't, when you're in a church, you don't get into weird stuff. You don't have to get into long stuff. Like pastors are concerned sometimes because they got to monitor what's going on because there's all kinds of stuff out there. So you think people are being controlling, but they're not. They're shepherding. They're just watching over the... What I'm telling you is this. When you come to church, you can love people. People can get healed way before you ever pull together. When we did services back home in our weekly regional stuff, we taught people that the service begins when you get there. That love starts when you wake up. So when you come, you meet people, you love people, you ask them how they're doing, and if somebody looks like they're hurting, listen, man, can I just pray for you? Man, I want to bless you, man. And you just pray and keep it clean, short and simple, boom, and bless them. Get them to check their body, you release faith and love one another. You know, listen, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like you had a challenging day, and I feel like you really were pressed with something, but you're working through it and things, but I just want to agree that this thing changed. And they go, oh my gosh, yeah, how do you know? God's just telling me you're doing right, and let's just pray. We used to go to start our service, and I'd look out and I'd go, oh my goodness. And I would just go talk to somebody, and 20 more minutes would go by. I had visitors come up in those regional things we did, and they'd come up and say, excuse me, are you the head of this? Are you the authority of this meeting? I said, well, I guess you could say that. Yeah, I am. I would be. I thought this was supposed to start at 7. I said, yeah, it actually had probably started before that. And they're like, well, it's 20 of 8. What are you talking about? Nobody's taken any order. Nobody's said anything. Look, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to handle that with visitors, but I want you to look around with me right now. And there'd be circles crying. People, it's 20 of 8. And they'll just be in the church. There's circles and encouraging and cheering and laughing and just fellowshipping. And that's amazing. And I say, look around. This is what we teach our people, that the service starts when you get here. We've been so taught that it's a certain thing, and we all got to come and we sit and we face and we go home. Now, we're the church. This is an active, loving people. And they're like, oh my gosh. I said, yeah, look at that. Put yourself in my shoes. How do you interfere with this? How do you stop this? Where do you step in? It was that powerful in our meetings because we were just teaching people to love when they came. Don't come to be loved, come to love. Amen? So you're standing, real simple, and I'm not going to keep you long on this. I'm not even probably going to do a whole lot other than just release you guys to believe with them. And you that are being prayed for, you say, thank you, Father. I receive the kingdom. Check your bodies. If you feel completely healed, that's a no-brainer. Yay. If you feel somewhat healed, it's like, wow, God, you're doing something. And if you want, pray again. As long as I'm seeing increase, I'll keep praying. Sometimes if I feel like I'm striving or trying too hard, I'll just stop and release faith and rejoice and thank God. If you see nothing change in your life, and it's okay to talk about this because there's times we've prayed and see nothing, it doesn't mean we didn't get nothing. We're releasing the kingdom. Lay your hands on the sick, they shall recover. So you don't strive. You don't say, what am I doing wrong? Man, if I prayed like they prayed, they'd have been healed. Or, man, I wish I had him over here praying. He looks filled with God. That's what we've done in the church. So then we target people instead of just receive through truth. And what you do is you say, God, I so thank you for the honor of praying for them. And the person prayed for, you still have that same tendonitis feeling. And you say, you know what, Lord, you're amazing. And you're doing a work in me. And I just leave here rejoicing and thank you for people surrounding me and loving me. I thank you most of all, you love me. That's where it's all coming from. And you're the one that makes me whole. God, you're amazing. And you're driving home, Father, I just thank you. You get it? That sure beats. I wonder why I didn't get healed. Why is this stupid pain still in my shoulder, man? What am I doing wrong? There must be a deeper problem. I bet you there's something hindering my healing. I'll bet you if that was really true and you had intimacy and deep relationship with Jesus, I bet He's not playing charades and holding out on you and putting you on some detective for search. I bet you He just wants you to stand in truth and grow in it. And don't let your circumstance speak louder than truth. He's magnified His Word above all His name. Don't let your feelings and your circumstances rise above His Word. You follow me? Yeah. Raise your hands high if we're going to pray for you so we don't lose you in the crowd, because in a minute we're all getting up to get after you. Would you go claim somebody? Would you just go claim somebody? Tell them who you are. If they don't know you, tell them your name, get their name. Ask them how you can pray. I'm dismissing you all in this. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm going to unhook my mic. Pray for them. Find out how you can pray and give them the kingdom. In Jesus' name, be healed. That's what you're praying. In Jesus' name. Do we got everybody covered? There's a man back here. He still needs prayer. Can somebody please just find that gentleman and give him the kingdom? Is everybody covered? Okay, we got everybody? Good. Pray for them, guys. You know what to do. Love them. In Jesus' name.